That's right.
Any Philadelphia 76ers fans out there? They need some of this morning. Need to be motivated, inspired. They need to know that some better days are ahead. Because last night, epic collapse. Atlanta Hawks down 26, come back and win. Now take a 3-2 series lead in the NBA playoffs. They need as much harmonica in their lives as they can get. There's no doubt about it. Maybe Sixers fans and Major League Baseball pitchers, after listening to Garrett Cole whine and complain last night and see the numbers, I think, Bill, I don't even know. I guess I didn't know they do this, but they do like RPMs for pitchers and baseballs and the whole thing. Well, that was the stat after Garrett Cole's start last night for the Yankees. The lowest RPMs he's had in his last 92 starts or something like that, and it's by a pretty significant margin. It's actually the lowest since he moved from the Pirates to the Astros back in the day. And saying, I don't even know how we grip the ball anymore. Okay. I didn't realize I didn't have that problem throwing the baseball with my 6 and 8 year old. We gripped it fine and we threw it to each other last night. It wasn't that big a problem. Apparently, it's a much different deal when you're a big league pitcher. Did you get into the hockey last night and stay away from the basketball, I'm guessing, or where'd you go?
Big weekend of sports with the U.S. Open. I'll probably get into some hockey. I think the Lightning play. I need to check. I think they play tonight. So I actually took an off night. Took a boat ride, hung out with the kids, grilled some shrimp. I just made it a nice, relaxing, kind of away from everything type night, and it was quite enjoyable. As I will gear back up for again. I've already flipped on the television. I believe what I'm going to assume is that it's not bright and sunny out at Torrey Pines at what I believe is 3:07. Is that correct? 3 hours behind us there? Yeah. So I'm going to assume that I'm watching yesterday's coverage of Torrey Pines. So this would seem to make the Golf Channel's live from Torrey Pines segment not true, but yeah, it was more of an off night, kind of a good Wednesday night to gear up for what should be, I think, a really fun weekend. I think they are calling for rain on Sunday for Father's Day, 60%. But other than that, I kind of expect a fun weekend. Started the College World Series as well, and I'll probably check that out a little bit.
Epic collapse last night in the NBA playoffs. And you got to give the Hawks some credit for sure. They had already come back from down 18 in game number 4 of this series, I think. But last night, they were down 22 at half, 26 in the second half. The Philadelphia 76ers in the past 25 seasons, when leading by at least 25 points at any point in a game, 165-0 until last night. I mean, and this is not like it was just at the beginning of the second half or something. Atlanta down 24 late in the third quarter, 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go, and they outscored Philadelphia 40-19 to finish. What a brutal loss for the 76ers, especially at this time, and especially how it went down. Trae Young kind of leading the way for, not surprisingly, ended up with 39 points, I believe. I mentioned it yesterday, Bill. The NBA playoffs have been tough to watch. I will consider myself a very casual NBA fan at this point, but man, last night, and the last couple of nights have drawn me in a little bit. And I think we're hearing little Trae Young there. Oh, okay. Having some fun this morning, technical difficulty-wise. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We see on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, how about them Hawks? I hope they can break the Georgia curse, Nick says. I didn't realize there was a Georgia curse out there. Are we talking about a championship deal, maybe? Maybe it's well, I did see the Braves win the 96 World Series back in the day, but outside of that, maybe the Falcons up. how much 28-3 there in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, part of the Georgia curse that he might be referring to. Interesting morning to start there. So what do you make of more Sixers collapse, more credit to the Hawks last night for coming back after the big deficit?
You got to give credit to the Hawks. The collapse is neat, and it requires a little bit of work. You've got to have a little bit of work to have a collapse like that. But you got to give credit to the Hawks. They have to make shots. They still have to get defensive stops. They have to keep playing, and so I'll give them the credit and just kind of look at the Sixers. I don't know, man. Also, Embiid and Ben Simmons. I have a hard time believing that's ever going to actually work. And it'll be interesting. They're now down 3-2. So Atlanta has got a chance to move on to the conference finals here against likely the Nets, I guess. They play tonight, Brooklyn and Milwaukee. But Atlanta's got a chance to move on if they can win one more. But Philadelphia, if they don't get out of the semis here, it's hard for me to not see them. I don't know if I'd say blowing it up, but they've got to do something different because, man, like you said, you can't lose that kind of lead last night. A lot of it coming in the fourth quarter when they outscored Philadelphia, or Philadelphia was outscored by 21 in the fourth quarter alone. Atlanta outscores Philly 40-19 in the fourth quarter. Tim, that's epic. And of all things, it was in Philadelphia.
How about there were 2 guys for the 76ers to make field goals in the second half? 2 guys. Embiid and Seth Curry. They finished with 37 and 36. Out of all the teams out there that would just have a couple of guys score from the field in the second half, I would not have predicted it would be the 76ers, and I would have put Embiid on that list. I don't think I would have put Seth Curry on that list. I think it was a playoff high for him last night. Woo, man, just brutal. And after the game, Embiid didn't even speak to the media. Never a good sign for leadership and moving forward. It was a notable collapse last night in the NBA playoffs for sure. I know we don't normally follow the NBA playoffs too close, especially at this hour. But, man, that was something last night. Elsewhere, it was the Atlanta Braves losing yet again to the Boston Red Sox 10-8. Things not looking great for the Braves lately. They had the 4-game losing streak. They snapped it. Then they lost both these games to the Boston Red Sox, dropped to 30 and 35. Red Sox 15 games above 500, one of the best records in baseball there. Continue to roll. And despite some big home runs there that actually gave the Braves a lead, 7-6 in the 6th inning, the Boston Red Sox then had no problem coming back and winning that thing 10-7. It was Bronson Arroyo with a late 3-run homer there. Or is that a grand slam? No. Yep, grand slam is what I'm looking at now. Trying to figure out exactly how to read this sucker because it said 3 guys. No, grand slam. There it is, Bronson Arroyo hitting that sucker. Tough night for Atlanta. Tough night for, I guess, Atlanta from the baseball perspective. Good night for the Atlanta Hawks. A notable night in the NBA playoffs from that perspective. And college football news out there. I had to read this story a couple of times, Bill. So just Jimmy Kimmel himself is now sponsoring a bowl game. That's where we've gotten to. Bowl games. Feel like that we saw it from the Gamecock perspective back when the Duck Dynasty crew was sponsoring the Independence Bowl when they played Miami. What was that, 2014, after the tremendous run? And we're in that bowl game. You planning on sponsoring a bowl game anytime soon?
No.
Just going to let Jimmy Kimmel do it?
It's not necessarily the direction I plan on trying to take my money. But, hey, if that's what Jimmy Kimmel wants to do, I'm sure it'll be a big production. They'll probably do the show from the game. I don't know. Who knows? It'll be entertaining. Jimmy Kimmel I don't really do late night television anymore. I used to watch Conan O'Brien, but now for multiple reasons, one of being doing this show, I don't get into the late night talk shows. Quite frankly, I guess it's old age. I don't really stay up on Saturday nights to catch Saturday Night Live anymore. I think I made an effort a few weeks ago and caught a little bit of Elon Musk. But other than that, yeah, my late night television viewing is limited to a very good sporting event or it's nighty night time. And so, but I have seen some Jimmy Kimmel stuff and he's pretty good. So I would expect there to be quite the production for is it the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl? Is that am I right on that?
You got it. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Yeah.
Is what you call it.
And I would assume I've got a feeling the way these things kind of work is he got the money together and this will be a one-time deal, a big year full of advertising for him, and then he'll move on from it. It'll be played December 18th, and will air on ABC. So he will get one of those. I was trying to see. Go scroll back through here. Will match the Mountain West champion against the Pac-12 number 5 bowl selection. So I think, Tim, that is the original Las Vegas Bowl, I believe. Remember the Las Vegas Bowl used to have that game?
Uh-huh.
So these things, and now the Vegas Bowl. I'd have to go back and look. I believe an SEC team is eligible to go to the Las Vegas Bowl.
Papa Joe hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line where there'll be a monologue beforehand.
Could be.
This will go. And you can guarantee that Kimmel will milk it for all it's worth, I'm sure. 803-404-6100, the number into the program. How you can text in just like Papa Joe did on that Cool Care Heating and Air text line, or give us a call on the Love Chevy phone lines. Interesting start to the morning. You mentioned that the Pac-12 being tied into that LA Bowl. Pac-12 team now also tied into an NCAA investigation with Arizona State and Herm Edwards and possible assistant coach recruiting violations. What do you make of that story, Bill?
Well, I think if it was Herm Edwards, is not what I would label as a polarizing figure in sports or in football. I think he's an interesting figure. I think you start with that, right? Let's start with the head coach, because if this was some random coach that maybe had been around, maybe it was a retread in terms of college, like say a Rich Rodriguez who was at Arizona originally or something like that, I probably wouldn't pay much attention to this. Herm Edwards is an interesting figure in football in general, and that's what makes this so interesting. Is you've got I guess a booklet, a dossier. Am I saying that? Is that correct? That's what was used on Yahoo Sports, including screenshots, receipts, pictures, and emails related to numerous potential violations within Arizona State's football program, according to sources that was sent to the athletic department at Arizona State. And apparently, this is pretty juicy stuff. I don't think it's stuff that we don't think is already going on in college football. It's just that somebody documented this really, really well, and it links Herm Edwards pretty closely to everything here, including meeting with recruits and doing a few other things. So, Tim, I think it's because it's Herm Edwards who also took a different approach to how he wanted to run Arizona State. I'm kind of intrigued to see where this goes here.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is issues with hosting prospects and contacting prospects during this dead period that has just broken on June 1st, that we talked a lot about from the Gamecock football perspective, now being able to host on-campus visits and have camp there at the University of South Carolina instead of just the Zoom calls and all the virtual visits that they were doing before. But yeah, Arizona State looks like there's an NCAA investigation under Herm Edwards. I was going to suggest him. I had him just outside my top 5 likable coaches when we were talking about that a couple of shows ago, maybe a week or so ago, because of his profile being on ESPN as long as he was, his personality, you play to win the game kind of deal. To me, that's how I see Herm Edwards. This could certainly shift that opinion that I have of a guy who seems very likable, had a good career as a player back in the NFL days, and then has had some interesting interactions, I feel like, with his players through the years, with those of us who followed football, specifically the football fan kind of in general as an ESPN NFL analyst, and now moving back to the college game, where I'd say, well, how would you rate his term now at Arizona State the last few years? I'd say he's had some success. It's been overall slightly above average, maybe. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, I'd put it slightly above average. I mean, I think it's been entertaining, interesting. I think there's a lot of ways, a lot of words you can use for that, but it's certainly been something that if it wasn't Herm Edwards, I highly doubt we even mentioned this. And this isn't to say that Herm Edwards is some well-known, again, polarizing coach, but he does have an interesting background. I think he's different than just some kind of retread that we see kind of thrown through Pac-12 programs. And again, if you start reading the details on this, man, it's given what we all just went through with COVID and the restrictions and everything. And then if you follow football recruiting, especially the way I do, seeing how Arizona State handled this is wildly both amusing and I think a sign of how coaches were desperately trying to continue to recruit against or maybe against the NCAA. Have you read all this about the way that Arizona State was doing things?
Not particularly, no.
This is from Pete Thamel on Yahoo Sports. This is what I was reading last night. The first thing that's very interesting is that it's mentioned that whomever has turned over all of this information to initially get turned over to Arizona State, whoever, or to the sports information department and the athletic department, whoever turned this over had very close contact with the football staff. Basically, what they're saying is nobody really outside of the football staff or the people in the athletic building could have had the ability to get some of this information or even know specific names. It says specific evidence of multiple examples of high school prospects taking illicit on-campus recruiting trips to Arizona State's campus coming during the pandemic-inspired dead period that ended June 1st. It says Arizona State deliberately, blatantly, and consistently broke rules relating to hosting players during the dead period, including Coach Herm Edwards' meeting with recruits. A source has added that the evidence included pictures of the visits, including Edwards with a recruit who ended up enrolling at Arizona State. It goes on to say that they would meet in a stairwell, apparently in the football building. It says Yahoo Sports has interviewed more than a dozen current or former Arizona State staff members. Multiple sources indicated that at least 30 players visited campus over a span of months. A practice so common, coaches referenced official visit weekends and staff meetings, and coaches bumped into recruits and families in a back stairwell, and a routine developed by facility tours being given around 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. at night. It says one weekend in October, there were so many high school kids visiting that a staff member parked a 12-person van in the staff parking lot to tour around recruits. It's not the juicy stuff, Tim, that we get into sometimes with paying recruits, McDonald's bags for Tennessee, but it is interesting. And we'll see kind of where it goes and what happens.
No doubt about it. That's Arizona State, the NCAA, looking into that football program. Not what you want this time of year when you're talking about college football for sure. College baseball movement and basketball for the Gamecock perspective as well. We'll get into the details as it pertains to Carolina as we move on this morning. We'd love to hear from you at 803-404-6100. Just getting started on a Thursday morning. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. So your stuff just went out, huh?
Yeah, everything here blinked, flickered, whatever you want to say. And, I mean, everything kind of stayed on. You saw, I don't think I ever lost anything with the live stream. The access technically didn't cut off or disconnect. It just, all of a sudden, I couldn't hear you. And then when I tried to get back on number 6, it said remote busy. So I got on number 7. Are we expecting Patrick this morning or?
He said he was going to hop on in the 7 o'clock hour.
Okay, didn't know if that neck thing finally got to him. So I can probably in the 7 o'clock hour jump back over to number 6 if that helps him.
Okay. Yeah, here it was so weird. Like I just kind of heard a little chirp, and the lights flickered, and then all of a sudden you guys were gone, like from the live stream. I was like, okay, that's fine, but you weren't coming through the board at all either. I was like, so. Tried a few things, popped on CBS. You guys came back, so at least it bounced back quickly.
Yeah,
recycled.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly kind of happened there, but yeah, it just like you said, it was just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the power just reset. We were
how
good
weird
to
for that to happen here and where you are, like little distance, you know.
Yeah, we can bring up Austin's. Not his first camp experience yesterday, but entertaining. Stayed there for the whole 3 hours and watched. Ended up hanging around.
Oh, he's one of those dads.
Y'all. All right. I forgot. My neighbors next door showed up.
Party at your house?
No, now we can't be loud. No party. No being loud here. No extended show today. No extended show.
This is our last one of the week. We will be off tomorrow, Juneteenth. Our company is taking the day off. So if the Gamecocks were in the College World Series, we would probably work it, but obviously not quite the case.
That'll be next year. Wait till next year.
Yeah. Jen Jensen making her Gamecock Larry predictions this morning.
Right.
That's
We'll
right.
be in Omaha next year.
We back.
Yeah, it's really, really low.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I walked up to the camp yesterday, and I mean, it was, young basketball player. I don't know, maybe JV varsity player for River Bluff, and I start talking, and he goes, "Man, your voice sounds familiar. Are you on a radio show?" I was like, "Yeah." And Ben, the coach, was right there, and he said, "Yeah, he's on 107.5 The End." And the kid goes, "Oh yeah, my dad listens to you guys every morning. He laughs at y'all a lot." I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." I think.
He doesn't take anything that you say seriously.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, all right." So I hung around to watch. Dad wants to go watch Austin today, so I'll get him up here in a little while.
That's cool.
Get a little food and him and hang out here.
Microwave some bacon.
Microwave some bacon. There will be no microwave bacon here. Cooked some shrimp last night. Actually, I should have wrapped some in bacon. This is a stupid question. I need to look and see how you do that because I feel like shrimp can cook, especially on the grill, a lot faster than bacon. So
I think it'd have to be thin bacon.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Like center cut.
I'll have to look at that maybe today.
Bacon wrapped scallops, dang good.
There you go.
I mean, I've had them before. I've never made them, but Trying to look and see Eastern time. I meant to look this up. What time? I guess tea time is not until 10:30 this morning for the U.S. Open.
Yeah. I think Dustin Johnson's off this afternoon at 4.
No, 9:45. Wow. So they're going to tee off at roughly 6:45. Must be going off on the front and the back, too. Yeah, you got Thomas, Koepka, and Morikawa go off at 10:30. It's kind of your early morning big group. Keimer, Webb Simpson, and Mickelson at 10:51. Max Homa, Alexander Schauffele, and Daniel Berger. No, Berger's not in that group. Actually, it must be. Oh, it's Mickelson, Homa, and Schauffele. Oh, that's a pretty good group.
You saw Kevin Harvick is going to be driving the Grave Digger, the monster truck. That's the wrap for his car this week.
Ah,
kind of cool. That was my 5 seconds on NASCAR.
Maybe you can take him today.
I'd love to. He's good on super speedways. Guys,
would love your help today from 10 to 4. The American Red Cross in downtown Columbia, the blood drive, our summer blood drive. You can get more information at our website, 1075thegame.com. 10 to 4 today, the American Red Cross on Bull Street. Would love to have your help today with that and time. There's an overwhelming demand of blood in South Carolina, and actually switching locations. We told you we're going to do it at the American Red Cross. Now it is moved to the larger venue of the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center today to get as many donations as possible. You can pre-register redcrossblood.org, or you can walk in. Again, the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center, the site of today's blood drive now, because looking for as many participants as possible there. There's an overwhelming demand of blood in South Carolina. Again, if you can help, we would certainly appreciate it, as would the American Red Cross at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center right there in the Vista today. The neighbors of the Metropolitan Convention Center there is the Colonial Life Arena, and there's a bit of a shuffling of Frank Martin's coaching staff that coming out yesterday. Chuck Martin moving into basically the right-hand man, the associate head coach title added to his business card yesterday. And then former Gamecock walk-on player, Brian Steele, moving into an official assistant coaching position, as announced by Carolina yesterday. Bill, what do you make of the move of the slight shuffling of the Frank Martin coaching staff, really promoting from within?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's, Brian Steele is a young guy, and if you're looking at it short term, it's probably a really good move because he's familiar with what Frank wants in an assistant coach. He's played for Frank. He's been the video coordinator down there. He's familiar with the staff. He's familiar with the players. There's not going to be a learning curve for him. He's going to understand exactly what Frank Martin wants and expects from him as an assistant coach. Long term, I guess sometimes I can tend to look at it as, well, how do you help in recruiting? What can you do? And that's where it'll be interesting with Brian, who I think has a very good personality, who I think can develop into a very good recruiter. But you got to get out there and you've got to be able to make those connections and build those relationships. And so whatever you want to think of Frank Martin's future, the season, the program doesn't stop after this year. and you need to continue to sell the program, whether Frank Martin's here or not. And so that's the long-term portion of it. But I think the short-term for this year with this team, they'll take one more transfer, I guess. I think it very well could be the 6'11", 215-pound transfer Josh Gray, who was at LSU last year. If they do that, we'll know what the roster exactly will be, and now you know what the coaching staff, or should know what the coaching staff will exactly be. So I think those things combined, at least it gives you an idea of what the basketball team will look like heading into 2021, 2022. The schedule is starting to kind of come out. We're getting an idea of what exactly South Carolina is going to have to face. I think that's kind of interesting. And again, I'm not going to sit here and make any predictions on good or bad, but I think it'll be interesting, Tim. I think there's going to be a lot of new faces. If you go to a game early on, you're going to have to buy a program guide to follow all the new players. And, again, you at least have some stability in the coaching staff from the standpoint that Brian Steele has been around. You're not bringing in a new guy who's got to understand how practices run, what Frank expects from his assistant coach, things of that nature. So we'll just see how it kind of plays out over the next 12 months.
Yesterday we were talking about Frank being the 7th Gamecock basketball transfer this year. 8 guys off of last year's team who had the chance to come back will not be coming back, and throw A.J. Lawson in that mix, moving on to professional basketball. We've seen years like this before, Bill, for Frank Martin and company. Certainly other college basketball programs. It's not unique to just Carolina, but it will be that transition year that you're talking about. And this is when you have to get contributions from first-year guys. And evaluations are critical. And then, to me, it's the developing of chemistry. It's almost like instant chemistry, because last year was a great example of having experienced players not be able to find chemistry. So typically I would say, you need to develop, and you need to have that environment where guys know each other, and it takes some time. And mid-major programs might be the best example of that, or a program like Gonzaga has clearly figured that out. But that's not basketball in 2021 anymore. Even for a Gonzaga or other programs, it's typically, hey, you've got to get contributions from first-year guys. You have to. And this year will certainly be that for South Carolina, and will be interesting to keep an eye on. I'm always for promoting internally if you can do it. I think that's the best way to do it, because just from a continuity standpoint, especially for a guy like Frank Martin, established head coach, knows exactly what he wants. And it can be that transition period. He's always talked about him getting to know players getting to know him. If you also have that acclimation with assistant coaches too, I would imagine that only just delays kind of optimizing things for your team. And this seems to be a way to cut that out anyway. And any guy who's kind of walked on and fought his way on the Gamecock basketball program, Steele has been with Queens University outside of Gamecock basketball, I think, in the last couple of years. So it hasn't just been a South Carolina experience for him. Good for Brian Steele, and it will be interesting to see kind of how his role might change on game days. We've seen him on the Carolina bench and with the team in the last several years in certain capacities, but never been a particularly vocal guy or a guy standing up on the bench and actually telling players what to do. Now that'll be part of his role, and how he connects to a lot of these newcomers, I think will go a long ways, or could go a long ways, into the Gamecock basketball team bouncing back from that disappointing 6-15 season last year.
Well, they need, Brian Steele, I'm guessing, I don't know the breakdown of how exactly Brian will fit into. I'll look and see if I just skimmed over it in the press release. But I believe Brian is going to be in charge of working with the perimeter players. And that's what's going to be kind of interesting this year, when you've got basically 2 new point guards in Jacoby Wright and Chico Carter coming in. And that's where they need to have the most production this year, is at the point guard position, because think this is kind of debatable. I think Couisnard is better off the ball, maybe, or maybe you go with him as the point. Finding that, you're shaking your head. You disagree? You go with Couisnard more at the point guard, or you unsure?
I don't know. I shake my head because I think we're all confused at that, aren't we? I don't know if we know. Certainly the redshirt freshman year was better than last year when he was on the ball more in his first season, but it wasn't like it was clear at that point that he was the guy and was really comfortable handling it and the whole thing. It was just kind of evolved into him being one of the better players on the court and having a good year. So I don't know. That's why I'm shaking my head.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not convinced, are you?
No, of what?
That he absolutely needs to be the guy handling the ball, and that'll be best for everybody and how he plays the best.
I thought coming into his career that he was better as a off guard, as a guy that you try to run things through. The way he was able to play the point guard position his freshman year changed my perception or my opinion of that. And so I don't know. And I wonder if taking the ball out of his hands and having Seventh Woods be more of the point guard role this past year, I wonder if that was one of the reasons we saw the significant decline in Jermaine Couisnard. And if that's the case, do you need to get the ball back into his hands more often? I don't know if that's the answer there, but I do think that finding a reliable point guard, South Carolina's for a program, Tim, that you and I kind of watched there in the 90s and the 2000s with Melvin Watson to Aaron Lucas to Trey Kelly to Devin Downey. South Carolina had really, really good point guards, top half of the league point guards. When you talked about that, I think you can throw Chuck Idson in if you want to throw Chuck Idson into that mix as well regarding the point guard. Ever since the Final Four team, PJ Dozier, they haven't had that point guard that you can kind of rely on. We thought it would be Rakim Felder, but obviously didn't work out for him. They've struggled to be able to find another guy that really is the leader of that team. Even that Final Four team, you had Sindarius Thornwell playing point guard, maybe more than you would have liked, but it worked because of the personalities and the dynamics of that team. But South Carolina, who, again, for the last 25 years, I guess, I've watched have very solid point guard play, has really struggled to find that. And this year, you've got some options. You're going to have some options, but can somebody step up and take that true lead role as your point guard? I think that's what will define this team, getting solid point guard play from whether it's Couisnard or Chico Carter, the transfer from Murray State, or Jacoby Wright coming in as a freshman.
And I feel like as much as that, you got to get a voice, a player's voice. Sindarius Thornwell was such a personality and clearly that guy. I think you can add that in. After that Final Four season, not only has point guard play struggled, but leadership has struggled. Been just a void, a vacuum there that has tried to be filled at certain times by certain guys, and eventually kind of Chris Silva figured it out towards the end of his career and the whole thing. But I think that combined with the point guard play, I don't even know if you can separate them, right? You got to have both of those things going into this season for Carolina basketball to get back to what Frank Martin certainly wants it to be, what Gamecock fans want it to be towards the top of the SEC, and a team that is relevant come March, because that's what we got used to seeing, Bill. They were relevant. I know it wasn't a consistent NCAA tournament team, but last year, obviously, the exception to that.
It'll be interesting to see. I wonder if, I don't want to say power struggle, because that makes it sound like the players were at odds with each other. And, the one thing we heard last year regarding this basketball team was that it wasn't that they weren't friends, that the chemistry in the locker room wasn't bad, but it was that when they left the court, they didn't really care to hang out with each other, I think is the way it was kind of described. I'm wondering with the subtraction of certain players, if you get the two guys that should do it, Couisnard and Keyshawn Bryant, stepping up to be those vocal leaders, to be those guys that push others. Keyshawn Bryant seemed to do it a little bit more towards the end of last season, become a little bit more vocal, kind of become the voice of the team. That's what you mentioned. That's what Sindarius Thornwell was. Is that the role that Keyshawn Bryant takes? And if so, that would be a huge step. That and point guard play. You're exactly right. Those two things, if they can get those two things, who knows? Maybe this team's got a chance to be very competitive this year, but you got to get both of them.
The Gamecock baseball standpoint, transfer in from Appalachian State, a pitcher up there from originally from Charlotte, says he's been a Gamecock fan since he could walk. Noah Hull joining the Gamecock baseball program, a guy who threw in various roles for the Mountaineers over last season, got about 50 innings in, an ERA right about 4, 52 strikeouts in those 50 innings, 23 walks, hitting only .218 against him with a 5-1 record, a few saves thrown in there as well. Says South Carolina has the reputation for developing pitchers, moving them on to pro ball, and he feels like he can meet his potential at the University of South Carolina with the baseball program. Noah Hull, an Appalachian State transfer, joining Mark Kingston and company. Here, some Gamecock baseball news to go with that Gamecock basketball coaching staff news this morning. A question about Gamecock football and the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. We'll get to that as we continue to roll on. Love to hear your thoughts as well at 803-404-6100 to up and rolling on the live video stream, Facebook, YouTube Live, on Twitter with the station handle at 1075 The Game as well. It's the early game here on 1075 The Game. Stream, Facebook, YouTube Live, on Twitter.
There you go. How you feel this morning? Wow.
There he is.
Hey.
646.
Number 6.
Yeah. We had a power issue in the first segment, and so 6. I jumped on 7, so 6 should be available for you.
It doesn't work. It's probably something that Ed needs to send it back, or fix or something.
6 worked. That means that power shortage might have knocked it out because it was working. I started on it.
Well, once Jen finishes this, I think we just need her to take off number 1 from 1320 and move it onto our board, and that should work just fine.
And
because I'm connected on 1 right. I'm connected on 1 right now, and I hear ESPN.
Okay, she might be able to reset 6 too. Maybe that's what it needs.
Sometimes this happens, and Ed says he needs to send it in or something. I don't know what exactly happens.
So Jen Patrick says he's connected on 1.
Yeah, it's the 1 is connected in 1320 right now. That's the only one I can get working, or that I can actually tell where it's coming from. Can you take 1 off of the board in the AM and just pop it onto ours? Then that should work. I'll disconnect it for the time being.
Okay, I'll pop that off.
Reconnect it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Cut I'm seeing, Patrick?
So what?
I
had to get a haircut for the wedding weekend. It was getting shaggy.
How'd that work with the sore neck, the stiff neck?
It was okay. I mean, I kept it very still. It's a little bit better now. I did a lot of heating pad yesterday.
Attaboy.
So I can't go straight back yet, but it's good enough, and I don't have to I don't have to do labor for another 4 days, so we should be back at 100%.
Improvement is good. Except for that.
Are we gonna make U.S. Open picks?
I'm down with that. Go
So is Bill,
one favorite and one upset again.
Is Bill what?
Staying on 7.
Yeah, I think so, because I think we might need to just tell Ed that something's wrong with 6, because I tried to get onto that one too, and it said it's what it always says when it's struggling. I think it said, requesting call, and it just continues to request the call.
It told me remote busy is when I tried to.
Well, I think that just means that it's reading a connection and it's not connected, so it might just need to be power cycled.
I think 1 is. Yeah, so I could always turn it off and turn it back on.
I can hear the commercials now. I assume this is.
Okay. Yeah.
You got DHEC right now?
Yeah, DHEC. That is correct.
Wow, that was for the live streamers, that was some pretty intense behind the scenes stuff there.
Great.
Patrick's coming in hot. Love it.
All right, that sun is coming up.
I got my U.S. Open bets in. I'm ready to go.
You get two golfers. One can be a favorite. One has to be an underdog.
Okay, well, I got both of those.
All right.
I also bet winning score over under 279.5. They're going to go under par, right? Come on. They always say this. They always say this, and they always go under par.
279.5.
Yeah,
What is that in relation to par?
1 under, par 70.
All right, we're heading back in.
So it's actually 2 under then, right?
279.5. So 280 would be
Gotcha.
even par.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look.
All right, guys, you're up.
But you're not the golf guy. But you're coming in hot this morning about the U.S. Open. How is that happening? Is it just simply the numbers that you're playing and the potential of what may happen for you personally if you get some picks correct? Is that right, Patrick?
Yeah, I get intrigued by majors, though. I mean, I watched the Masters, and this would be considered like the second most prestigious, right? I guess maybe for the Brits, they would say the
Right.
British.
Depends where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument between these two, but I would put the British Open over the U.S. Open personally. Maybe that's just because I'm a snob, but there is no argument between number 1 and number 4. I don't think. I guess maybe if you're European, you would say the Open is more prestigious than the Masters, but I think that's a small percentage of people that I've ever talked to about golf.
I think it's the history, Tim. I'm with you on that. I think the history of the British, and also I think just being across the pond, as they say, some intrigue to it, and not something that we see typically, especially the way golf is played.
Bill, let's see if we can bump your volume up because Patrick's coming in hot this morning.
Yep.
So we can't have you being quiet and Patrick coming in just with his full Maryland gusto.
The knob is now at 3 o'clock. If you were looking at it, the volume knob is that's a given that it's normally at 12, I've knocked it over to 3. So
Like that.
we were really going behind the scenes on what radio programming is like this morning.
All right, so Patrick, how are you feeling? Who are you feeling good about as the U.S. Open? We'll get going a little later than usual just because it's on the West Coast, so not until 10:30-ish tee off times, our time this morning.
6:45. 6:45.
Do you want me to give it away now? Or,
So 9:45, you're saying our time, Bill?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I want to hear where you're going.
all right. Well, I put 4 bets in. I put Mark Leishman for top Australian, which was surprisingly good odds. Plus 225 for him to be the top Australian. finisher.
Wait.
Oh, weird.
Wherever you place these, you had a top Australian?
Yeah, that's not. I mean, there's the top everything. There's top European, top American, top everything. So Mark Leishman, top Australian. Adam Scott and Cam Champ were both favored ahead of Mark Leishman, but Mark Leishman has won at Torrey Pines before. He won there at the Farmers last year. So I loved that at plus 225. I had the winning score under 279.5, so I think they're going to break par. I was surprised. I feel like this is always hyped up. Like, winner's going to be lucky to break par, and every time these players are just so good. There's always somebody that gets like 3 or 4 under when they weren't expected to. So I feel pretty good that the winner's going to shoot under par. And then I picked Koepka to finish in the top 10 just because he's a gamer. He's just a baller in majors. So I feel confident in that. I wanted to bet on Jon Rahm just because everything seems aligned for him. His first ever tour win was at Torrey Pines, and he was playing unreal before his little hiatus. He's got a little break in, so he should be rested, and it kind of just suits him. But the odds are not good on anything Jon Rahm, so I'm staying away from that. So I just went with Brooks there. And then a top 20 for Jason Kokrak.
Okay. Any particular reason? You just love the name?
He's apparently the advanced metrics say he's one of the longest and straightest guys on tour. Like he hits it long and he hits fairways. So apparently this is kind of made for him. But I can't bet him to finish top 10 because there's too many beasts in the field, and I can't bet him to win even if it's a long shot because it always ends up being one of the superstars. So top 20 seems pretty safe for that, and it's plus 190. So I could almost double my money if he finishes top 20.
Okay. It's a lot of the Jon Rahm thing is very interesting. You guys know this is apparently where he proposed to his wife. She's from somewhere in that area. I listened to his. He had a very good press conference on Tuesday, just talking about what happened at the Memorial Tournament and everything. He was. I don't want to say kind of funny because I don't want to make light of the situation, but talking about flying back home to Phoenix and having to be on the equivalent of an ambulance type private jet. Like he said it was kind of creepy because he's sitting in a chair and there's basically a stretcher with nobody on it that you would have typically had somebody laying on if you were having to transport him. He said it was. He kind of laughed at it. It was really good for Jon Rahm, who I think has got kind of a weird relationship with the media. He's considered a little bit of a hothead. It was a very good interview with him, or a very good press conference set up for him. So I'm with you, Patrick. I'm kind of pulling for Rahm this week. Looks like he's plus 125 to finish in the top 5 is what I've got here. So.
Yeah, it's just he's even money to finish in the top 10. Like there's not much to be made unless you're supremely confident in him, which I kind of am because the narrative's on his side and everything. I can just totally see the story lining up perfectly for Jon Rahm to win it.
Plenty more discussion about the U.S. Open coming up. Interested to get Patrick's thoughts on that NBA playoff collapse, epic collapse by the Sixers, and then a question about Shane Beamer and the job he's doing for Bill. It's all coming up next here in hour number 2.
I actually got engrossed in reading about Justin Sue. Is that how you say his last name? That's who he's younger guy on the tour. But I was just reading about some of his charitable stuff that he's done, and all of a sudden I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh, jeez. Okay.
So
y'all got me in the U.S. Open reading.
Yeah. So was my volume that bad? Because compared to what I know.
And it was earlier because I had put the note in about that, and that's why I was chatting in the air. But yeah, it's just really low. Like I'm probably I've got you at probably like -5, which is
I've got it almost turned all the way up. Yeah, it doesn't go.
The headset.
It doesn't go to 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock would be to me the equivalent of being all the way up, and I'm at 3.
Interesting. And it was that way when you were on 6, so it's starting to make me wonder if it's not a microphone headset issue.
It was that way this morning, or has it been that way all week?
Well, it has been for a couple days, and that's been when you've been riding on 6 or using Access 6.
I'll play with them. I'll see if I can bump the microphone up a little, or get it closer to me mouth.
Just tap it on the floor a few times.
Yeah. I'll throw it into the lake and see if that fixes it.
Yeah, kind of.
If Kokrak ends up winning the tournament or finishing top 10, I'm going to be so salty that I didn't just pick the top 10 because top 20 was plus 190. Top 10 was plus 550.
Woo.
Wait, what was top 5?
Top 10 was plus 550. That's a pretty strong payout.
I don't have all that stuff. I've got just top 5 finish.
See, I don't have top 5s, I don't think.
I have top 5 finish. And I was kind of looking at you. Koepka's plus 175 and finishing in the top 5.
You have Koepka plus 175 to finish top 5?
Yeah.
I got him plus 160 to finish top 10. I have plus 350 for a top 5.
Oh, wow. Wait, I thought you just said you didn't have top 5.
No, I just found it. I didn't see it at first. There were too many tabs. I just opened it up. Jason Kokrak, top 5, plus 1,100.
Yeah, let's see. Jon Rahm is plus 525 to win. What have you got Jon Rahm to win, Patrick?
Let's see. $750.
Jeez, I've got him plus 525.
That is not good. Plus 525 to win a tournament. That's like not Tiger in his prime, because that would probably be Tiger. I wonder what those lines were when Tiger was in his prime. It's probably the only time someone's been close to favorite against the field.
Let's use an independent third site and see what we've got here.
I was reading something about a stretch that Tiger had. It was like 8 starts back in the day. He won like 5 of them, finished second in 2 more, and like 5th in the other one or something ridiculous. Absurd.
out says, in 3 starts at the Farmers since 2015, Koepka shot a 41 in 2015, and he has 2 missed cuts on his resume, 2017 and 2021. So basically, Tim, this little thing that I'm reading, I think this is coming. This is off of Vegas Insider. It says it's an interesting contrast between Koepka's reputation of being a majors only guy versus how he's played on a regular tour event at Torrey Pines.
I got my info from Steve Sands.
Nice.
Wait a minute.
On the golf
Wait
team.
a second. I did not see Brooks.
Yeah, Steve Sands is always on DC radios and podcasts because he's from the area and he's a massive Skins and everything DC fan. What, were you looking at something wrong, or?
Well, I'm trying to confirm that this quote by Koepka's fiance is true. If so, it's crazy. She said that he's not a favorite this week because he's too caught up in grade school drama with Bryson DeChambeau. She's a good-looking woman, though. Jenna,
Yeah, she's like an Instagram model.
yeah, she's at 32 years old.
Yeah, I can guarantee you, Koepka, he would have no ugly chicks being anywhere associated with him.
Oh, he got it. They got engaged in April.
I bet there's a special bank account for fitness, plastic surgery. Yeah. Just guessing. He just seems like he would be shallow and look for that. I mean,
Well, he's
she's lovely.
super rich and he's jacked. So
Yeah.
it's a good combo.
She may be just absolutely lovely and I'm being ugly.
Golfers, I think all golfers have very attractive wives. Kind of.
Well, it's a country club lifestyle.
Yeah. Guys are up.
Perfect timing for this intro as the exploits of Brooks Koepka on and off the golf course being discussed on the video stream. Facebook, YouTube, Live, Twitter as well, where you can find us on that. Full house this morning for you. Tim Hill, Bill Gunter, Patrick Perrette, and Jen Jensen with you. U.S. Open tees off 2 hours and 45 minutes from now or so out on the West Coast at Torrey Pines, and it is an interesting one. Brooks Koepka is now the most interesting guy on the tour, right? Mm-hmm. Phil Mickelson's been there and done that, and that was a great story with the PGA Championship. But, I mean, clearly one of the most popular guys and makes it very interesting. But Koepka's the guy right now, right? The lightning rod, the guy that I'm gonna turn on to watch. I'm not gonna pull for him. I'm gonna turn on to watch though, and especially at majors where, and that's why I think is that he's a different guy in the majors, and he just admits basically, Patrick, I think where you and a lot of people are coming from, you only care about the majors. That's it. In golf, that's the only thing interesting about golf to a lot of people, the majors. And to basically have a player, a world-class player, admit that and clearly approach the game that way is fascinating. And now with his own fiance is saying this, Bill? Have you confirmed the quote that you're checking out and discussing on the video stream, or is this just are you on a celebrity gossip site? What's going on there?
Well, I can't find what exactly. So I'm reading I read Vegas Insider from time to time for breakdowns or what's going on, and I don't think that they just made up this quote from Jenna Sims, Koepka's fiance. He proposed. I've learned a lot here. If you're on the live stream, you watched me learn a lot about Brooks Koepka's personal life in the last 7 minutes. I didn't realize that he got engaged, I guess, back in April, but his fiance Jenna Sims, who, as Patrick pointed out, I believe is an Instagram model, apparently she has publicly suggested that there should be no interest in Koepka this week because, as she put it, he's too caught up in his grade school drama with Bryson. And this is all part of a paragraph about best bet favorites that are the best bet to miss the cut. And he is the best bet to miss the cut this week. And it points out statistically, he's not been very good at Torrey Pines. And he actually really has not played very well. He does have the knee injury, but he's not been playing very well with the exception of the runner-up finish in the PGA Championship, although that lends itself to what we've just kind of discussed about him being a majors-only guy. But it says 3 missed cuts in 4 starts wouldn't be so easily glossed over as it can be with Koepka. If I were to change the name to someone like Tony Finau or someone else without a major victory in their career. Basically saying what we're just talking about is that Koepka really only shows up for the majors. I just looked up to, just because as we're just talking about it, what his career earnings are. Slightly over $35 million as of May 25th is what his career earnings are.
And he's only got 8 wins on the PGA Tour, but 4 of them are majors. So, I mean, that's why care about anything else if you can just show up 4 times a year and make – how much do you win for making winning each major?
I think they're up to about 2 these days.
$1 million? Yeah.
It's crazy. I feel like this is something unlike we've ever seen in golf. Both Koepka's kind of approach and public attitude, and then now his back and forth or his rivalry with DeChambeau. And the U.S. Open did have the opportunity. I'm glad they didn't do it. Like it was low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I agree.
Bryson DeChambeau on Thursday and Friday. Because I think you got to take the long view in this thing, right? You try to milk this thing for all it's worth. And if you just throw them together, I think they would have the opportunity to laugh it off together, and then everybody go, "Oh, this was just kind of a bit of a joke," and they're moving on and getting over it. That was the great thing about Tiger and Phil back in the day. I think we were always trying to figure out exactly what that relationship was, and I think it kind of went through its ebbs and flows, where Phil was a legit contender and rival of Tiger, and then where it's just Tiger being dominant in the whole thing. I'm glad that it's not just kind of right in front of our faces here and really obvious from the U.S. Open standpoint. I'd love to see them paired together on the weekend, but you got to earn that. And Patrick, how are you feeling now? If one of your several picks in this U.S. Open field now, you had him making the top 10?
Yeah, top 10.
So you got Koepka in the top 10, and Bill's reading over there that he's one of the top guys to bet on to not make the cut. You okay with that, knowing who Koepka is, or does that make you feel a little bit nervous?
No, I mean, I don't think you can. He's such a unique case. I don't think you can really take anything about his form or his past starts into account. Like he's going to either. I mean, I guess he does feel like he's either going to miss the cut altogether because he's just not feeling it, or if he makes the cut and plays all 4 rounds, he's going to be in the mix on Sunday.
Right.
Like it just feels like it's going to be one or the other with him, and he's just so nonchalant. Like I would bet anything that his girlfriend, if she said that, like he totally knew she was going to say that and thinks it's funny. Like I guarantee he thinks it's funny.
Well, the thing I like about this Koepka DeChambeau deal, Koepka's leaning into it.
Yeah, Koepka actually has a sense of humor. Bryson actually just gets salty though. Like,
That's
Koepka thinks it's funny.
We kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago as it started. I was like, all right, what kind of who are you on, Team DeChambeau or Team Koepka for like? So I was like, man, I kind of like Koepka a little bit more after this. He did come across whiny after the PGA Championship, talking about he sounded like a wrestler, and that fans were going for his knee, I guess, as they were running down the fairway on 18, and that people were taking shots at his knee. But I got to admit, I like that Koepka's kind of leaned into this thing a little bit. He did the video with, was it Michelob Ultra?
Mm-hmm.
He even said it was good for the tour. And
I agree.
there is an element of that, of having a rivalry. Patrick, I don't know if you remember it that well. Tim, you kind of just brought it up, trying to figure out the relationship with Tiger Woods and the people that we kept pushing or kept being pushed as his rivals. At first it was David Duval, Then I think we hoped it would be Sergio Garcia. Then obviously it was Mickelson in the 2000s. But it was so bland, you didn't really have that kind of.
Well,
kind of
were any of those people, like, he didn't have personal problems with them, did he?
Not that
No,
we don't know
right?
that.
That's the thing about Tiger Woods in his era, is that it was still pre-social media, and he clearly was able to keep a bunch of his personal life private. That's the thing with this version, right? That we never gotten to really in sports, is because you got social media and you just put your own stuff out there. That this is just different, especially with Golf Channel interview video that leaks that never was supposed to air and the whole thing. But what has to happen here, Bill, for this to remain interesting is these guys got to be relevant in majors like the U.S. Open. So at least DeChambeau or Koepka has to continue to be in the mix on the weekend in majors. Otherwise, I think it's really easy to just ignore them and put most of your focus on guys who are actually winning or certainly in the mix. And Koepka in that runner-up finish and the PGA Championship, man, incredible, especially knowing where his knee was at. And that's why I think you're right, Patrick. And I think Dustin Johnson has some of this in him, right? Where you feel like, okay, he's going to win it or he's going to miss the cut. And there's
Bryson, certainly.
In between. Yeah, and DeChambeau can be that guy as well. I think I relate to that. Bill, don't you, as just a duffer? Because that's what draws me to golf, are those great holes, those rare great holes or great moments or great singular shots or shot. And then the rest of the time it's a struggle. And so I feel like I can relate to a guy who is either completely frustrated with his game and not making the cut, or just basking in glory, even though that comes very rarely in golf for me, like a shot or a hole. But that's what I will latch onto, and that will bring me back on the golf course. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I finished up last Sunday. Basically, went 41 on the front, and then proceeded to completely fall apart on the back and shoot a 51, which was it involved 2 triples and an 8 on a par 3. But I parred 18, and I actually had a pretty good look at birdie. And it was, as you just pointed out, it was one of those things that I was so ticked off. And as a matter of fact, thankfully, the other 3 guys who have the video, they better never share it, or else they will lose. They will no longer be friends. Let's put it that way.
Oh, we got an unreleased video.
I was so ticked
off. Bill
off.
Gunter golf video.
I hit a shot. I was playing with my buddy, and he was playing really good. Chad played really well last week, and I was up on him going into the back 9 on the course we were at up there, and I was there was a short par 5, and I was about 190 out, so it was a pretty short par 5, and I hit a 4-iron and rope hooked it into a creek, and at that point the round had gotten we'll go with tense, or it had gotten to the point that taking a drop or being friendly was out the window. So I had to go shirtless because I was hitting out of the creek in some mud, and I didn't want mud flying up when I hit the shot and going all over my shirt. So I was barefoot and shirtless, chipping out of a creek for eagle over a bunker. I ended up making a par, but let's put it this way: I was not happy at the time that was occurring, and the film both suggests a person who needs to hit the gym a little bit harder and have a few less s'more Oreos, and also shows a very unhappy side of me when I'm not playing well. But I made that par on 18, and I walked off the green thinking, that's pretty good. I'm ready. I can play another 18 right now. I'd like to come back and try this again.
When that story started, I wanted to see the unreleased video. I'm good now.
It doesn't need to get out. Let's just go with that. It's perfectly fine not getting out.
803-404-6100 if you would like to join the show. Epic collapse in the NBA playoffs. How in the world does an NBA team only have 2 guys score in the second half? 2 guys score from the field in the second half. I don't understand how that works. Also, plenty to update you on. A little shuffle in the Gamecock basketball coaching staff. Gamecock baseball transfer in. Gamecock football question to you, Bill, about Shane Beamer. We'll do that one when we come right back. It's the early game here. It's 107.5 again.
Golf is so difficult to bet.
What's that?
Golf is really difficult to bet because you just start reading these names and it's like Colin Morikawa was a California kid. Like he could totally come in and win this thing.
Yeah, I like where Craig's coming from here.
Yeah, any of it.
They love this. Rory and Justin Thomas and Spee. Yeah, you guys just talk about DeChambeau and the whole thing with Koepka. We'll just laugh about it, and then we'll just worry about winning.
I think this is off of.
Whoa, Craig. How does that happen when you throw one of your partner's clubs? I need to hear that. I've seen dudes throw clubs, and it's just a miserable experience.
One of his partners.
How do you end up throwing your partner's club?
That's where you just you realize throwing your clubs isn't working quite as well. You're not getting the proper anger out, so you just grab your partner's club and throw that.
You know, the worst part about throwing your club is then once you've done it, you still have to go retrieve it. And that's just like almost a walk of shame. Like, okay, I made this big dramatic thing. It's not like I can stomp off. I still got to go get the stupid thing. So
I would love now this guy is becoming the most
Grudge match.
Huh?
Grudge match.
Like I would love to meet this guy because doesn't that last text by our buddy,
Read it, Tim.
Yeah, Bill, tell everybody.
Our buddy who texts in all the time and just he's so bad at this, but this one is actually hilarious. Wow, 51. You wouldn't be allowed anywhere near my group. I would quit. I haven't shot in the 50s since I was 10. Seems like your golf game is just as bad as Carolina Athletics. Like, you got to admit that part, except for the last sentence is what he typically does. But the part about how good of a golfer he is, because you know that guy probably doesn't even know how to play golf.
What if he actually is just like 6'3", 230, jacked, and like hit 350-yard drives, like the coolest guy in the world. Like everyone in his friend group loves him.
Just the most dry, sarcastic, bitter sense of humor ever.
I would think his text messages would be funnier though. He would have a
Got
better
$1 million house and a smoking hot wife, and he's just a man.
It's actually Brooks Koepka. It's actually Brooks Koepka that's listening to us. Is that Brooks Koepka? Despite graduating from Florida State, he's actually a huge Clemson fan.
Oh, hilarious.
He's better at golf than you. He's got a bigger boat than you. Got a giant house on the lake.
That's his burner. It's actually my neighbor who just hates me.
Actually, a sports talk show host up in the upstate.
Yeah,
I guarantee you can dunk.
Because everybody knows the way you get good at golf and constantly shoot below 50 is to text message a radio station from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. consistently every day. Although I'll give him credit, he's got a lot of free time. Maybe he takes his speaker out there, he puts his phone on the tune in app or whatever, and he just plays golf all day and listens to us.
Sorry, I can't help you.
see, that's what he does. He's so good. He has a caddy who's actually texting this stuff
Yeah, that's
while he's
actually
golfing.
that's why that's actually the caddy's not as funny as he is. That's the
Right.
problem.
Yeah,
The caddy doesn't have the
translation
sense of
get
humor.
lost. Yeah.
He definitely likes me the best because he said good picks, except for Koepka.
I think we can live with that being. I can.
Congratulations.
Not if he's actually the man. Then I'll be happy about it. I'm gonna keep telling myself that that's him. You see this?
Let's see.
Tropical Storm Bill, second storm of the Atlantic hurricane.
What?
Tropical Storm Bill,
Yeah, yeah.
second named storm of hurricane season.
So lots of hot air.
Doesn't all hurricanes have hot air? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
Did I not pay attention in class when we were discussing how hurricanes work?
Kind of a washout.
So Mickelson is plus 5,000 to win the U.S. Open.
You know, some people are just dropping that.
Well, as soon as he won the
Why?
PGA, it was like plus 500 because they just knew they would sucker people into it.
Right.
Wow, that was plus 5,000. He was plus 15,000 for the PGA, depending on where I guess you look.
Nice up.
Hot Take Hotline up and rolling for you 24/7. Maybe when you're watching the U.S. Open later today, maybe it's tonight when the local shows are already done, or over the weekend, you feel like you just need to get something off the chest. That's when the Hot Take Hotline's there for you. Again, 803-978-6654. If you need to vent, Hot Take Hotline sponsored by Twin Peaks. For the men who never settle, go see them down in Vista at 600 Gervais Street. Bill, the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Jay from the Interstate, a question personally addressed to you. Can you handle the pressure?
Oh, yeah.
Would like Bill's thoughts on Shane Beamer and the job he's doing with recruiting and what we might have to look forward to in the future. Boy, what a question that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a very good job of getting guys on campus. But we've kind of talked about it. I think this week, maybe some last week. You've got to get some commitments. You've got to get some of these guys. That getting on campus is nice. Will Muschamp was able to get guys on campus. You've got to be able to land some of these guys. The Ryan Brubaker is a perfect example. What is it? Antonio Kite, I believe, is the safety out of Alabama. It's neat. It's great to have them come on campus to say all these wonderful things about the environment and the culture and what they think about the facilities. But, at the end of the day, you've still got to get these kids committed and then signed and move on from there and get talent in your program. And so I think with the recruiting part, yeah, he's doing a good job. You can't question that because he's getting some guys on campus and giving South Carolina a chance. But you've got to be able to get those kids committed. And then you've got to get them on campus, and then they've got to perform. And so it's a step-by-step process there. And that goes hand in hand with what the next part of that question is. What do you think about the future, or what do you expect in the future? Well, I don't know, because it'll be interesting to see this year. I still don't feel like, guys, I think y'all would agree. I don't feel like I know what the offense is going to look like. I assume it's going to be run heavy. I don't know what Luke Doty's going to look like as a quarterback, or if Jason Brown's going to give him a run for his money with the starting position in fall camp. The offensive line, I feel like, should be better than it's performed. Maybe a new offensive line coach gets more out of them. I don't know how the offensive line performs, because it's kind of hard to say, well, they're a really good offensive line just because they had a 1,000-yard rusher. They also seemed, you guys I think would agree, pretty poor in pass protection, right? Are we on board with that?
Maybe the league in sacks given up, I believe.
So, yeah, and so I say all of that just because it's hard for me to know what this football team is going to be here this coming year. And quite frankly, I think that a lot of recruits may sit back and wait and watch and see what South Carolina looks like. And you know what? Again, they can say all the great things about family environment and incredible facilities and visions. But if they don't see it with their own eyes and believe in what you're trying to sell, and if you go 4-8 this year or 3-9, that's going to make it a very uphill climb, and we'll see how it goes. So I think he's doing a good job. But again, to me, it's all comes down to how you perform this year and what they're able to do and what they're able to accomplish on the field.
This year?
I don't want to say that 1 year sets the tone necessarily for anything, because I'm going to be that person who, while I think that there is some level of accountability for what Frank Martin and the basketball team had to go through last year, and you've got to be able to deal with it. Other teams were able to deal with COVID and protocols and no fans and lack of practice and so forth and so on. 1 year, that last year doesn't define Frank Martin's basketball team. So I don't want to be that person who says 1 year defines you, but I think with Shane Beamer being a first-time head coach, and I also think when you're having to recruit against in your region against Mack Brown in North Carolina, against Clemson, against Georgia, against Auburn, against Florida, you keep an eye on what Mike Norvell and Florida State do this year. Obviously, you like to go into the Miami area. Manny Diaz looks like that program is generating some momentum. If you come out of the gate in your first year and you go 3-9 or 4-8, I think it really puts you behind the 8 ball when you talk about all those other programs that you have to consistently compete against for recruits. Josh Heupel at Tennessee, there's so much going on at Tennessee right now. At least Josh Heupel's been a head coach at Central Florida, but there's so much going on at Tennessee that you can make the case Josh Heupel's in a very similar boat. That you come out of the gate 4-8 or you have a really bad year, again, the competition you have to recruit against. Mack Brown's really getting it going up there at North Carolina in terms of locking down that state and keeping South Carolina in particular from being able to go into that state and get guys that typically they would have gotten in the past. Mack Brown's changed some things there. North Carolina's playing better. They've got a dynamic quarterback in Sam Howell that looks fun and creative and kind of draws, even if they won't play with him, draws people in, draws recruits in. So I do think that this is even though it's year one, it's a really, really big year in terms of being able to show progress right out of the gate. That doesn't mean win 8 games or 9 games, but I also don't think you can come out and just say, oh, it's year 0 and Muschamp left him nothing. No, there's going to have to be some progress in year 1 because you've got to sell that. You've got to show that to guys to increase your talent to try and catch up with the teams. Let's just start in your division, not let alone nationally.
Well, you said Josh Heupel's in his first year. If he's got the same position as Shane Beamer, you can't just go out there and get throttled by Tennessee, because he's dealt with the same set of cards. I mean, Auburn's more talented, but that's a first-year staff, and obviously half of the South Carolina coaching staff from last year's there, and you have gotten in some recruiting battles with Auburn. They're kind of few and far between, but you've gone after guys that Auburn won. So, there's other coaches into their first year too. So there's not really excuses for anyone.
Are we in agreement here? Not an excuse, just what it is. Craig says, agree, Bill. This is the hardest time to be a South Carolina football coach in school history. I completely agree with what Craig's saying. Absolutely. And then Chad hits us back, says harder than the 0-10 year. I think he's talking about the 1-10 and 0-11 times from Brad Scott to Lou Holtz. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I would agree with
just
that.
Because of where Clemson and Georgia are, where they were not back then. And also, you can look at it 2 ways, right? You say back then, well, no one had proven that South Carolina can be nationally relevant, right? So maybe it's that much harder of a job to make that happen. But when you're Lou Holtz, you got a national championship in your pocket. You can sell that. And he did, and he got South Carolina. I guess you can look at it several ways. A couple of back-to-back Outback Bowl wins against Ohio State, to me, is relatively nationally relevant, if that makes any sense. It certainly wasn't contending for a national championship, but it was nationally relevant and certainly much more than Carolina had ever been before. But Steve Spurrier took it to the next level with 3 straight top 10 finishes. So now that the expectation is there, or that taste is there, at least from Gamecock fans. And I think that is kind of its own individually unique challenge amongst the Carolina program, within the Carolina program, that ate up Will Muschamp and company. And then, to their own path, having success and winning the Outback Bowl in year number 2, and then going down after that made it that much more difficult. But I agree with Craig, specifically because of the challenges within the SEC East, with Georgia being as nationally dominant as they are in recruiting and as good as they've been the last several years, and then Clemson being what Clemson is. To me, that's why I put it as the most difficult job that I've seen in my lifetime anyway. Maybe several of you can go back a little bit further than Bill and I can.
I agree with you on that, but I think the other part, like if you go back, if you bring up the 0-10 or the 0-11 year, the one thing about that is, at least say this for Lou Holtz, whatever you want to think about him, he had shown the ability to turn programs around and go and win. And this isn't, again, this is not a knock on Shane Beamer, but Shane's never been a head coach before. You come out of the gate, and look, I've put Marcus Satterfield in the same boat. We don't know that he's necessarily going to be a good offensive coordinator. And if you come out of the gate here and you go 4-8, you can't point back to things in your past and say, well, like Holtz might have been able to do, and say, look, here's what I did at NC State or Arkansas or Minnesota or Notre Dame. I know how to win. I know how to build a culture. I know what to do here. Here is the resume. Here is how I did it. Same thing with Steve Spurrier when he went 6-6 and everybody got all upset and they missed the bowl. You were at least able to look back and go, well, Spurrier knew how to do that. That's why I say with Shane in this group, year one, I mean, your two most veteran coaches, I guess three, you throw Greg Atkins in, he's been around for a long time, but is Justin Stepp and Torian Gray. And so you're going to have to, if things go south here in year one, it's hard for Shane to point back at anything in his past and say, look, here's how I did it previously. Here's how we're going to continue to do it now, and here's how we're going to move forward.
We see you on the Love Chevy phone lines. Get to plenty of your thoughts on this as we kick off the second half of the show. Coming up next, 803-404-6100 is the number to call or text. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
It's going to be a fun sports weekend. You got golf, you got college baseball, you got playoffs in both NBA and NHL. There's all kinds of things for you to get into. And how about this? It's Father's Day as well. And you know what, fathers, you need a great night of sleep. You deserve it. You deserve it. You work hard for your family each and every day. You're probably exhausted. You need a great night of sleep. I recommend a Sleep Number bed. That's what I use. Get a great night of sleep. Put the Sleep Number setting on 45. Wake up rested, refreshed, ready to deal with Jennifer Jensen each and every morning. The lovely Jennifer Jensen, who is just so sweet to me. I wake up after a great night of sleep knowing that that's who I get to work with each and every day. Make the switch to Sleep Number today. Right now, discover proven quality sleep. Save up to $500 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds plus special financing. Subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See sleepnumber.com for details. It's only for a limited time. 2 stores to choose from here in the Midlands. One in Irmo, Harbison Boulevard across from Buffalo Wild Wings. The other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall. You can visit them on the web, sleepnumber.com. Right now, discover proven quality sleep. Save up to $500 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds plus special financing. Make the switch to Sleep Number today and find out what a great night of sleep is truly like. Let me get some coffee and find out what the loud thud that I just heard in my house was. I don't know if a kid fell out of bed or what.
I don't even know what headline to write on this right now. Got any
For what?
suggestions, Patrick? This Beamer discussion, or the Gamecock football discussion.
What about it?
I don't even know what headline to write to kind of sum it up in a few words. Like I was thinking, how difficult is the South Carolina job? Beamer evaluation so far.
I think the question could be: well? You said a few words. Is the job easier or tougher now than when Holtz took over in '99?
Or just how tough is Beamer's?
I think you just say. I would say, is it easier because at JB on the text line, he says not as difficult to recruit now because of facilities. Imagine being Holtz or Spurrier trying to recruit, showing our old practice field facilities. Much easier path now. So I almost wonder, is the job easier now prior to Lou Holtz or more difficult? And again, I know, Tim, you want to shorten that, but
Also,
How about that?
that's actually a good question coming off of 2-8, the worst year since 1-10.
What are you saying, Patrick?
every school has great facilities now.
Right, that's what I was going to come back with in the text.
Does Miami have great facilities?
I don't know. Did you see what Maryland just built?
No, I didn't see what Maryland
See
did.
those pictures?
When Maryland and Northwestern are up there on facilities, I think that's the point.
Yeah, but I mean, you're also still talking about
Maryland does have the Under Armour money though, so they do pump a lot of money in there. How much was the football facility here? 50 million, 60 million? Or?
I think so. Yeah.
55, maybe 50 is what I said.
Apparently Maryland's was 149 million.
Well, real estate's more expensive up there.
That's what they
Lumber
said.
prices are up.
Yeah, that's okay. Now when they built it. All right, guys. You guys are up.
Our discussion has turned to Gamecock football based on a question on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Jay from the Interstate, just asking Bill's opinion on the job that Shane Beamer is doing and what Gamecock fans can expect in the future. Fair question. Difficult evaluation. Several of you weighing in. In the 1990s, Clemson and Georgia both were kind of down. Auburn had not won a national championship. Alabama trending down. The power centers in college football, Florida State, Florida, Nebraska, Michigan. So it felt farther away. But Tennessee was an issue. Virginia Tech, maybe. One anonymous texter's perspective kind of on the challenge, I think, of the South Carolina job in particular, which is what we're discussing. Craig says it's the hardest time ever. And then I think the direct comparison goes to, all right, what about when South Carolina football was at its lowest ever with 21 straight losses, the end of the Brad Scott era, 1-10, and then Lou Holtz 0-11. JD says not as difficult to recruit now because of the Gamecock football facilities. Imagine being Lou Holtz or Steve Spurrier trying to recruit and showing our old practice field and facilities. Much easier path now. And Patrick, your response to that would be?
About what?
About the facilities.
Everybody's got good facilities. That's my response. Everybody. We live in our own little bubble and we look at the pictures and we think, oh, how could you not want to play here and use this facility? And then you go to another school's social media page and you say, oh, wow, they have all the exact same things. Okay.
Well, when you mentioned social media, to me, there's a more difficult aspect to recruiting because there's just so much chatter and so much noise, and people get maybe able to get in the kids' heads more. You know, like maybe fan bases trying to lure him. You know, like I don't know. I just think there's more opportunities.
It's like more noteworthy if you don't have a barber shop and every little gadget you can have. Like it's more noteworthy when it's not incredible. Whereas if you go to a school, like
Will that be the next trend in college football? A coach comes in and says, yeah, I know everybody else is doing that mess. That's not what we're going to do here. We're about football here. We're about keeping things simple and the whole. I just don't see that happen. Another text via Hot Sauce Ross on the Cool Air Heating and Air text line. Lou Holtz came in as an established head coach when we were at the bottom. Steve Spurrier came in when we were flat or at least minimally trending up. Shane Beamer comes into Carolina as a first-time head coach to a team that's on a downward trajectory. He definitely has the hardest job. I feel like he's the man, but it won't be turned around in a year. Still think we get 6 wins. They're from Hot Sauce Ross and counting it down 79 days, fellas, is what Ross says. Phil, do you agree with his assessment there about where these coaches have started their Carolina careers?
Well, and we were talking about this off on the live stream if anybody was watching, and I actually think it's an interesting question. You had Holtz come in after a 1-10 year, and now you've got Beamer coming in after a 2-8. So obviously there was a 3-9 in between all of that, but arguably the 2 worst seasons for South Carolina, or 2 of the 3 worst seasons, given 0-11 happened as well in the last 40 years. So where is the program? Is it easier to turn South Carolina around today than it was when Lou Holtz came in? I think that's a great question. And is it easier? Would it be easier for a proven coach? Does it make it easier for Shane Beamer, who, again, look, we're seeing a lot of great things. There's a lot of energy. I said this when Shane got hired, that you would see 9 months of basically this big honeymoon. There would be a lot of great things said, a lot of energy, and then you get to the first 2 or 3 games, and let's see how things all kind of work out from there. But you go back to Lou Holtz coming in and what South Carolina football was at that time. And some of it is, as people are pointing out, there was a difference in facilities. There was a major difference in facilities. There was also a major difference in the schedule that South Carolina played, who and what was being competitive around the Southeast at the time, and who you were recruiting against. So I think it's a very interesting question to compare South Carolina going into 1999 with Lou Holtz as head coach versus South Carolina going into 2021 with Shane Beamer, and again, 2 totally different coaches. One starting his coaching career with no head coaching background, and another with an extensive head coaching background, but on the backside of his career, looking for, I guess, one last, accomplishment, achievement. I don't know what you would say Lou Holtz was looking for when he took over South Carolina.
Ted, very sunny here. Beamer will fail if you say it's easier for him than Holtz. We have the power here. Is that what Ted's saying? Beamer needs 6 to 7 years minimum. This is a total rebuild, and that needs to be the mindset. Teddy D, and I agree with Patrick that we will be comparing our results this year with the other first-year coaches at Tennessee and Auburn, but also the year 2 coaches with Missouri and Ole Miss. Elaine Train had success his first year, so did Mizzou. Will their success continue? If yes, then we need some of that success here, or it could get negative with fans quickly. Speaking of that, Craig hits us up with a link. Hadn't seen this. CBS Sports typically does this. I think we saw the top. We did the top rankings there. I didn't realize they went 1 through 65 college football coaches in the Power 5, and Shane Beamer is number 65, just behind Jed Fish, another first-year head coach at Arizona, because he was an offensive coordinator at both the college and NFL levels. That's the reason they explain that he's ahead of Shane Beamer at 64. And then Vanderbilt's Clark Lee, also getting his first head coaching job, but having been the defensive coordinator his last 3 seasons at Notre Dame. Go ahead, Bill.
And Tim, that's why I'm saying it is a little bit different of a first year having for Shane, because there are people who already question the hire, who look at it and see that and question that. And again, it just is what it is. But at least, and so who was it? It was Teddy D who said we'll compare him. We'll compare him with, say, Brian Harsin at Auburn. Well, Brian Harsin, at least if something goes wrong this year, Brian Harsin can at least point to Boise State and see what I did there. If you give me a year or 2, I'll be able to use the tradition of Auburn with what I did at Boise, and we'll get this thing going. fair or unfair, Josh Heupel, who I don't think deserves much credit for what happened at Central Florida. I think Scott Frost set that thing up perfectly for whomever was coming in. I really don't think Josh Heupel is going to be a success at Tennessee. But Josh Heupel, again, if something goes wrong this year, he'll be able to say, hey, look at the NCAA sanctions that are coming. That makes it really difficult on me. And look at what I did at Central Florida. We won a bunch of games. I've got a resume down there. I've got a background. That's where it becomes a little bit different when you compare, say, a Brian Harsin and how he'll be judged this year, how a Josh Heupel will be judged, and then what Shane Beamer will be judged on.
It's interesting, as you were saying that, it reminded me of hearing Will Muschamp talk about the championships that his coaching staff had been a part of and the experience that he brought in. And knowing that Shane Beamer's staff does not have that pedigree within the SEC for sure, certainly have been part of winning programs, but it's a different type of approach. So obviously the experience that Will Muschamp's staff had in winning previously, it seems like his failure at Florida kind of trumped that coming into South Carolina, or for whatever reason it didn't work. It will be very interesting to see what Shane Beamer points to, I guess, is kind of what you might be referencing there, Bill, during times of struggle, which there will be, and during losses, and how you sell the program. Is that why you think winning in year number one is that much more important? Is that kind of your point in not only satisfying the fan base, but then selling recruits on that vision, not just being an empty vision, but you got to have maybe more success as a first-year head coach when you're Shane Beamer than some of these other coaches?
Yeah, I do. And again, a success is I think for this year, success is going to be in the eye of the beholder. If South Carolina goes 5-7, if they go 5, they don't make a bowl, a lot of people would say, okay, well, that's not a successful season. You can't claim that as a successful season. Let's hypothetically say you win the 3 non-conference games you expect them to win. You beat Vanderbilt and you win. I don't know. You beat Tennessee. Let's say you beat Tennessee. So there's your 5. But in the other 7, you just get blown out. Like, you're not competitive. Clemson puts a 50 spot on you at home. Texas A&M throttles you in College Station. Georgia pummels you in Athens. Florida thumps you here at Williams-Brice. Auburn beats you at home. Is anybody going to label that? That's an improvement. 5-7 is better than 2-8, although there's your 3 non-conference games. But is anybody going to label that a success? That's where I say it's who?
Well, I guess Chris will not. He says, I feel it'll be a little bit different if Shane only wins 4 to 5 games, but the rest are not blowouts like this past year. That will show progress in building a good team. There are some out there that are just like, all right, what are the results? Just the numbers, wins and losses. But I think most Gamecock fans are savvy enough to understand that there can be progress even when the numbers don't look necessarily good from a wins and loss standpoint, especially after seeing what happened last year, Bill. All those blowout losses, blowout loss to a team like LSU who was reeling and had a first-time freshman quarterback start. A Texas A&M team that came in and just made it a laugher when he got Lane Kiffin throwing up his call sheet in the middle of the play. Having lived through that, I think Gamecock fans, they want to see wins. Don't get me wrong. That is for sure. But I think you can measure progress a little differently, or a little more intricately, not quite as simplistic as just the wins and losses. And I don't know what Chad's hearing right now. He says, can't win at South Carolina. It's too hard. Boo hoo hoo. I don't buy into that loser mentality. That's not what we're saying at all. We're just trying to discuss the difficulty of the job right now for Shane Beamer and company. And we'll continue to do that as we roll on this morning. 803-404-6100, the number. It's the early game. It's 107.5.
The home of the Gamecocks and new head football coach, Shane Beamer.
I'm a process-driven person. We're going to get started advancing this program.
107.5 The Game.
I know it's cliche, but it's the truth.
Welcome, Coach.
Daily reminder, you need to be checking your mortgage statement. See what's going on with that thing. You might have some equity in your house, might be able to get another line of credit. Maybe it's time to refinance. questions I quite frankly I'm not able to answer, but a mortgage guru can. That would be Jacob Crowder. That's why you need to give him a call this morning. Alrighty.
Your audio wasn't coming through, Bill. Is your access turned up?
Did you not hear me?
Nope.
Yes.
I heard you on the live stream. Didn't hear you on the access.
Test. Yeah. Everything's picking up.
Talk to me.
Jen, can you hear me? No?
Not in queue, I can't.
I mean, how about now?
I'm not even
No?
getting a.
Huh?
Right now,
I
talk
hear-
switching to.
Whatever commercial, the Reverend or whatever, I hear the commercial.
Yeah, and I've got you in program. I've got you in
Hey,
I've got
talk
you in
to me on
program
the-
too.
Talk to me. I turned my live stream off to see if I could hear you. Can you talk to me through the?
Yeah, through the program 2, I've got you potted up, but I'm not seeing any levels. So nothing's coming out.
Let's reboot it. I'll reboot.
Hope you guys are enjoying the technical issues. But
Sorry.
Maybe the mic gave out.
Uh-huh.
that would make sense as it has been getting lower, I guess, the volume.
Well,
Totally agree with that, Chris.
no, 'cause I understand what you're saying, but the mic giving out, but I still couldn't hear Jen when Jen was talking back to me.
Right?
Okay.
Could be a connection issue as well.
But you could hear the commercials.
Yeah.
Right? That's happened to me before, though. I've been able to hear program, but you guys haven't been able to hear me, and I haven't been able to hear Jen. Steven, we certainly talked US Open. I think you just missed it. We'll get back into it at some point. Patrick, you want to give them your picks?
We talked a lot of it. Yeah. Let me pull it. I had
Mark Leishman as the top Australian.
Mark Leishman, top Australian.
Oddest bet.
Brooks Koepka, top 10. Jason Kokrak, top 20. And the winning score to be below par.
So it's 279.5.
I-
The under.
Guess what?
Trey, disagree, man. Because I think in Muschamp's first year, we saw that was the year where it was the least penalized team in the country.
What? Yeah, just make sure you got it.
Well, there's a difference between you'll be able to tell very quickly how the whole era will go and whether you have hope or not. Morning, T-Ray.
I really
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
agreed with that.
All right. So we're heading back in. I just tossed in about an extra.
All right, I'm back on 6. I'm back on 6.
All right, we'll check it out. All right, guys, we're up.
Quite the conversation about Gamecock football right now. It basically evolved for us. Is the job more difficult, as difficult, easier for Shane Beamer than it is for Lou Holtz? That's one that Patrick, at 25 years old, you can't really comment on too much. So we're trying to put it into historical perspective for you. You know, the biggest win and the only bowl win for Gamecock football when Holtz took over, Patrick?
The only bowl win when Lou Holtz took over? No. I don't think so.
The Hardquest Bowl back in the day.
That was a big one.
That was a big one at the time. The only one that Brad Scott took Gamecock football to. And it's hard to take yourself back there. But after the Steve Spurrier era, Shane Beamer takes over. After the Will Muschamp era, trying to head the direction, the program in the right direction. We're headed to hour number 3 here on the early.
Clear.
All right. Hey, I just heard you there. Jen, can you hear me?
Yes. Talk now.
Say
Do
something.
again?
Yeah, can you talk, Bill?
I literally just heard you say clear.
Okay, you know what's weird is you've come up through. I'm hearing
Yeah, I'm on-
you on 7.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on 7 now. 6 is something's wrong with 6. Even when I got on 6, no, it's okay. Hey, I had to switch to 7. The reason is on 6. Do you have 6 where it was completely off? Like I couldn't hear commercials or anything on 6.
Yeah,
I
I
think
bumped
this is
between 6 and 1, and right now it's flashing.
You're,
so like
you're talking back to
nothing's really-
6 or something because I don't hear you.
Okay. I'll talk to you on 7. But
Yeah, I'm
right
on 7. I'm on 7.
1
I think
and 6 are flashing, so neither one of them is set right this second.
okay. Yeah, just keep me on 7, but at least now I hear you. So and you hear me. So we're good, right?
Well, if
You hear
if
me
you
on
call it a
7.
win, yeah. So what do we do with Patrick?
What number was Patrick on?
I'm on 1.
Patrick should be fine. I was on 7 originally. Something's wrong, I think, with 6.
Isn't 6 off the board now? Didn't you pull 1 up onto our board?
Patrick, what number are you on?
Yep, we're good now.
Okay.
I've got Patrick on 1. You're coming through on 7. So we'll do Love Chevy at the end of 8:10. Tim will do Zero Res at the beginning, and you'll do Love Chevy at the end.
10-4.
But I hear everybody, so
Got it.
that's all magic again.
Oh, you know what? If you look at the private chat, was 740 supposed to be Love Chevy?
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
All right.
Yeah, that's the one you were just gonna do.
Well, I was doing another one because you got something else typed in at 740 on the private chat.
Oh, sorry. That's the one you'll do at 8:10.
Gotcha. Wait. Okay, I'll do Love Chevy at 8:10. All right, we're good.
No, you already did that, or didn't you?
No, I didn't do anything.
Oh no, I just had the wrong one. All right.
Yeah, not quite as bad as Patrick's there, Chris, but it's definitely twisted. Patrick, how's your cord today as he disappeared?
I got enough of it straightened out that it reaches my head, but the bottom of it is still an absolute nightmare.
Trey, yep, the blood drive is happening. Now it's at the convention center, though. We're trying to get even more people in there. So 9 to 3 at the convention center, I think, is the hours.
I can't get my kids.
Time for This Week in Baseball. Well, Stevens got Rory for the win. Good luck with that, sir.
I heard the synopsis of Rory. His chances are good because you're not going to use your wedges too much in this tournament. It's more going to be irons, and he's not good with wedges.
One of the best players in the world, not good with wedges.
Well, I think it's relative. He can.
Right. He's got Rory and Schauffele at the top of his list. I've seen the Schauffele call for sure.
I'm never going to bet on someone who Hasn't won a major until they win a major.
That would have been a struggle last year for you.
Who won last year? Bryson,
Morikawa won his first.
Morikawa, yeah.
Why is that not in there? What is going on? Oh, hold on. Yeah, we'll get that crap off there. It was.
I always think he's a safe pick, T-Ray.
When's the last time he won a tournament?
Hadn't been that long, I don't think. Let me check.
Has he won one this year?
Let's see if we got last win on here. He's got 14 wins. Last one was the Players earlier this year. Yeah, won the Players this year.
Yeah, I thought he was very hyped. He's been very hyped up until this point, it feels like, and it's kind of quiet, it feels like. I haven't heard people talking about him for the U.S. Open, but before the
Who's that?
Masters, Thomas.
All right.
He was like by
Can
far
take-
one of the top picks for the PGA and the Masters, and then no one's really talking about him right now.
Oh, this is great. Ted, I love it.
Yeah, I read that. We
This
opened-
radio station got Will Muschamp fired.
No, we create the mindset and expectation. You talk about a loser's mentality. Wow.
Who the heck is Chris Baker?
Patrick, what did you say you had John Rahm to finish in the top 5?
John Rahm, the top 5. Plus 200.
Yeah, he's plus bet MGM. I guess I'm using the DC casino because you can pick a bunch of them. It has him at plus 190, so that seems right. And he's plus 900 as the winner. Koepka and Dustin Johnson are plus 1,600 per. Yeah, that's the MGM.
We're back in the intro.
The great casino. MGM National Harbor.
Yeah, that's right.
Who has or had the tougher job? Shane Beamer or Lou Holtz? Gamecock football. It's a difficult job. I disagree with the texter that just hit us up. 803-404-6100. Matt says, head football coach of South Carolina is the hardest football job in America. He played the toughest schedule in the nation virtually every year. That's a difficult job, don't get me wrong. But not the most difficult. It's not even the most difficult job in the division. I think coaching at Kentucky and Vanderbilt is more difficult than coaching at South Carolina. Bill, where are you at? You with me?
Yeah, I'd be on board with that.
And just need a quick explanation. Vanderbilt, you got no tradition, no facilities, no fan base. And no one really cares. And at Kentucky, you're second fiddle. It's a basketball school. You're always fighting the basketball program. The stadium's not as big. The tradition is not as good as South Carolina. South Carolina, you got some inherent advantages in football. First of all, from just a weather conditioning standpoint, you should be in better shape. You have more opportunities to get your guys in better shape. than anybody kind of north of you. Right now, you got tremendous facilities as well. And Patrick, I agree with you. Most people in college football do. So the recruiting, the perceived recruiting advantage it gives you, I don't know. I don't know where it lies. I don't think it is that far out ahead of so many more programs that recruits just come in and are completely awed and overwhelmed and immediately ready to sign up.
What
I
is the
do think
number
they're
one?
good.
If you had to pick like the number one recruiting point for the University of South Carolina football program, I don't think you're naming the facility, the new facility. I think it's Williams-Brice Stadium and like the atmosphere there. Like you got to bring a kid to a night game at Williams-Brice, and that's what differentiates it. Because you take a kid like Tim, you mentioned Northwestern and Maryland. You take a kid on a summer, and you just walk them through the facilities. South Carolina is not going to be more spectacular than Northwestern or University of Maryland. But if you take them to Williams-Brice Stadium on a game day, that's different. So I think we keep pumping up the facilities, and that's just like, yeah, everyone's got great.
Patrick, the stadium is part of the facility.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you got to include that within the facilities. So that's why I think you can give the nod to the Gamecocks in that instance over those other programs that you mentioned. But you're right. The workout facilities are. I think kids now expect shiny locker rooms and shiny weight rooms and plenty of room and a great practice facility and the whole deal. That's just how college football has evolved with all the money involved, Bill.
Well, but here is, I mean, right now, and these things change very quickly as Patrick is referencing Maryland. South Carolina's facility is still in the upper echelon, the top 15, top 20. Now, people are going, we've talked about it, this is a race. People continue to build and add and redo. And while I agree, Patrick, that everybody's got really nice facilities, South Carolina still, at this moment, is still in the upper echelon of that group. Now, that's going to change because, as you just pointed out with Maryland, we saw what Northwestern, you guys are using Northwestern as the example of what did Northwestern build? I thought Northwestern just built an indoor facility. I don't know if they built a whole new operations building. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't taken the time. I know they built a beautiful facility kind of on the lake there, but I think it was just an indoor practice facility. I don't know if it included weight rooms and meeting rooms and all the glitz and glamour and things that people are doing. But South Carolina does have right now top 15, top 20 facilities. Again, that's going to change because you see these incredible football buildings that are being put up across the board, and so you move down the ladder there kind of quickly. Williams-Brice is nice again, but you don't recruit against Maryland and Northwestern. Very rarely. I guess you're starting to recruit against Maryland a little bit more frequently now as South Carolina goes into the Northeast. I look at it as who you're comparing, what you're comparing South Carolina to in terms of facilities, in terms of a game environment at night. That's a great question. What is the number one thing you point to if you're trying to sell South Carolina right now to a recruit? That's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer. I didn't have an answer initially when you said that.
I mean, you mentioned the schools. We know what the schools are. Tennessee. Tennessee's facilities are incredible. Neyland's obviously amazing. So you're not going to have like a distinct edge on Tennessee.
Wait a minute. You said Neyland's amazing. What do you mean by that? Like the atmosphere there? Because the stadium itself is a dome. The stadium itself.
100,000 seats. It's loud. They're playing Rocky Top. It's really loud. Like in a game day environment. From a kid standing on the field. What? Do you disagree?
You gotta. They've got to be winning. I've been there.
Yeah, so does South Carolina.
The point. I guess the point on that is I guess so. What you're saying is Neyland is the environment when they're winning 9 and 10 games. If
a kid comes on campus to an official visit and he's just walked from like the locker room to the field and he's standing at the field, he's not noticing anything about it being a dump. He's just seeing 100,000 people in their checkered overalls singing Rocky Top. Like,
I would say, and this is an intro. I don't know how many people can play this game. If you had to rank stadiums on environment, not because again, Neyland Stadium is trying to sit down like it's like a musical chairs game. If everybody stands up, you very likely lose your seat when everybody goes to sit back down if you don't sit down fast enough. But if you were to rank stadiums, Tim's been to Missouri. I haven't been to Missouri and I have not been to Arkansas. That's the two in the SECs that I've never been to. I've been to the other 12, obviously Williams-Brice, plenty of times. And then if you had to rank them on just like a nice stadium, I think I came back from Texas A&M 2 years ago, and Tim, I think despite being blown out 30-6, I was like, oh, that was a pretty good experience. And yeah, that Texas A&M's football field, I think it's beautiful. Like the sight lines, the way it's constructed, it's really neat. Stadiums in the SEC are all very unique. I remember going to Alabama before they built in the 2 upper decks in the end zones. And now you go there and the way it's kind of closed in and how they do that's phenomenal. Obviously, the swamp is just a completely unique experience. So I think the same thing with Williams-Brice in terms of how they kind of restructured it and built it. But I don't know if the stadium is necessarily something that you're pointing to better than other stadiums around the SEC.
Well, top half, wouldn't you agree? I think that's where South Carolina sits when you're talking about game day environments. Everybody that's involved in there, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, Arkansas, I think you can throw them in there too. Who else are we throwing in there off the top of it? Florida, if I didn't mention them. But South Carolina can compete from that standpoint. The game day environment is tremendous when you have the elements involved.
Well,
I think that's Patrick's point.
Yeah, Mississippi State is like they get the
right in there.
Cowbells going out there, and it's a zoo. And I think pretty much. Look, there are stadiums across the country that even when a team's winning, it's not a great environment, right? There are certain places that we all agree that, but by and large, any stadium across the country, if we talk about a team winning 8, 9, 10 games, you're going to create a really fun home field advantage and a fun environment to go be a part of. Tim, you say South Carolina's top half of the SEC in game day environment. I don't know if I would say that, but I also think that it's kind of like recruiting. You can be top 20 nationally and still be 7th or 8th in the SEC. Yeah. Like LSU is fun. Florida, I don't really like the tailgating scene in Florida. Parking in somebody's yard is very odd to me. But College Station, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, they're 6 right.
The Grove is great, but that stadium's 6.
Yeah.
Right, but I think the point is the question was, and I think it was a really good one. What is the selling point for the South Carolina football program? And several of you have commented on this. The live stream comment that caught my eye was with Travis's. I agree 100%, Patrick. There are so many schools like South Carolina. I'm not sure we've ever found that separates us from other schools, that gets people talking about us like Oregon did when they found their with wild uniforms. I think that's exactly what Shane Beamer understood, or either Ray Tanner and company understood in this coaching search and conveyed to Shane Beamer. I think it's probably some of both. But I give Beamer the credit for trying to create already creating the narrative with the welcome home and trying to set his coaching staff apart, trying to set his recruiting pitch apart from anyone else, as opposed to, do we ever see, did Muschamp ever even try to do that? I don't think he ever tried. To me, I felt like he took the same type of approach that we had seen with Steve Spurrier and Lou Holtz. Didn't have the national championship head coaching pedigree. Clearly it didn't work. And I think Shane Beamer recognizes that, having already recruited to South Carolina. He's got that advantage. And I think that's what he and his coaching staff are going to do right now. Instead of seeing their relative inexperience as a disadvantage, they're going to sell it as, well, we have the advantage of, first of all, Shane Beamer, the head coach, has been here recruiting before and has recruited really, really good players to South Carolina, sent them on to the NFL, made them $10 million. Secondly, our coaching staff, I feel like this would be the pitch, is coming in with a special appreciation of the University of South Carolina football for what it is, as opposed to seeing it as another stop. in the coaching chain, in the step ladder that might be a coaching career. And that's what I feel like right now. Bill, I think to your point is you can only continue to sell that when it's included in there is success and progress and the whole thing on the field.
Yeah, you gotta have some of that. That was the thing. Muschamp had the vision, the ability to sell. I think was fine. It's when you win 6 games in 2 years, that becomes really tough to sell. When you're selling your vision, and then you go 4-8, and then you go. I mean, obviously, if he was trying to sell it now 2-8, that becomes really, really difficult because there's nothing there to back up that the words you're saying equal the progress on the football field. And again, what made it even more difficult for Muschamp was there's a history there from Florida that also did not suggest success was coming down the pipe. That again, you got to think these coaches are incredible salespeople. You got to go recruit these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And the easiest thing in the world was to go, look at what Muschamp did at Florida. Now look at what's happening at South Carolina. There was going to be nothing there was going to be no ground he could stand on to show what he was doing. Shane right now is selling a vision, and he's got to continue to do that. But there's going to have to be some form of results this year that are interesting. I want to get to this text message real quick and get you guys' opinion because Tim, you said the Kentucky job is more difficult than the South Carolina job.
Yes, I would rank it in difficulty, more difficult, ahead of South Carolina. Yeah.
So I haven't agreed with – I'm going to start calling him Upstate Ted. That way we got too many Teds. Apparently we're making a lot of Teds. But I went back and looked. He said Kentucky is an easier job than here because expectations are way lower, and South Carolina plays Clemson versus Louisville. Let me just read – because then I looked at Mark Stoops. You guys know Mark Stoops has been there now for 8 years. 8 years. Do you know what his overall record is?
Yeah, the numbers aren't good. They're just not.
But do you know what his overall record is?
All right, let's do the math real quick, right? You play 12 games a year. That's about 100 games. 96 by my math. Throwing a couple bowl games there out of 100. I'm guessing. Go ahead.
He's played 99 games.
Way off. I'm guessing out of that, I would 57 wins. That's my guess.
In 8 years, he's 49-50.
Right.
24-42. Now he had a 2-10 year to start, and I
was going to say, can you do his first 4 and last 4 splits?
Yeah, his first four, he was 10, 17, 24, 30. He had 30 losses. He was 19-30 in his first 4 years. But let me guys ask you this: if Shane Beamer goes 2-10, 5-7, and 5-7 in the first 3 years, do you think he gets a 4th year?
No, I don't.
And that's where I can actually kind of agree with Ted on that, because your expectations at South Carolina are higher, making it a more difficult job because you don't get that opportunity. That would be an interest when you compare those two programs, Kentucky and South Carolina, because I wonder how South Carolina fans would feel. 2-10, 5-7, 5-7. Then Stoops goes 7-6, 2 bowl games in those 2 years, lost both of them, so he was 7-5 in the regular season. Had the big 10-3 year in 2018, 8-5 in 2019, and then last year they went 5-5 against an All SEC schedule, or they went 4-6 against an All SEC schedule and won the Gator Bowl.
That 10-3 year was the year. I mean, they beat Florida for the first time, and it was something crazy, like 50 years or something like that. And they were burning cars and all that, and that's what everybody was talking about on game day and SEC Network and everything. They're saying props to Kentucky for being patient and allowing a coach to actually fulfill his vision for once. You never see that, but I mean, was it patience or just like the fan base wasn't in an uproar? They weren't calling for they weren't picketing the athletic department and demanding his head. Like that's not their priority.
Yeah, or were they being realistic? I think it goes into it. And then how Steve Spurrier has changed those expectations at South Carolina. He just has. It's a different program after him. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text. It's the early game on 107.5.
All right.
The pool. That's our big plan this summer, to try to get the 1+-year-old out, maybe burn some energy, maybe keep him less as a terror at the house. It's not working so far. Just not working. Still, every time. Food is flying everywhere. So that has me a little bit more associated with my floors these days. Fortunately, we've had the experts from Zero Res out to our house helping us out and helping keep things under control at our house, because we need all the help we can get these days. Zero Res, carpet and air duct cleaning, done a great job cleaning my carpets. They clean an area rug for me in my house, also freshened up the tiles in both the kitchen and bathroom, and really impressed us with the results. But we did kind of expect good results from the professional carpet cleaning service. What we didn't expect was to feel good about the process that Zero Res goes through. It's a patented powered water deal. You can find out all the details about how they crank up the pH in the water and the whole thing at ZeroResColumbia.com, where you can book your appointment today. What we needed to know at my house, with a couple of more kids besides that 1+-year-old, is there are no harsh chemicals involved in that process. Nothing for us to worry about there. Also, no leftover soapy residue. So our carpets have stayed cleaner longer, and we certainly appreciate that even more now than we ever have before. And right now, they've got a great deal for you at Zero Res. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, give them a call at 803-262-4020. Book online, ZeroResColumbia.com. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. I don't even know what. Who's
Under
straight talking? UA.
Under Armour.
Alabama?
Under Armour.
Oh. My bad. Gotcha. I thought that conversation was done.
I don't think it's the reason we can't recruit, but then I would say Travis said I think North Carolina's it is the Jordan brand. Like, that's part of their it. Kids are very much drawn to that brand. And Notre Dame's just Notre Dame. Notre Dame's always going to recruit.
I didn't agree with all of that guy's text messages, but he's totally gotten into the show. I can see him just with pen and paper writing down all the schools across the country and coming up with the environment standpoint at each school and in each league.
Wow. People, man. People.
I told Austin to get ready to go to basketball camp so my dad could pick him up. I go upstairs. He's shirtless, no socks, no shoes, playing Fortnite. and then seems stunned that I'm the one yelling.
What is Clemson's?
Clemson's selling point?
I mean, we know what the selling points are for all these schools, but if you have the points, like the one thing, because we were saying earlier, like Oregon's got their crazy uniforms and things like that. What is there one thing that Clemson has that no one else has?
Travis, he does what he just. I think he gets a little too caught up into Fortnite right now.
I think maybe the national perception is religion for Clemson.
With Dabo?
Yeah. But also the NFL pipeline these days, and the slide. Good point, Al. And the slide. Trey, no show for us tomorrow. We are taking the day off. It is a company holiday for Juneteenth. Maybe, Patrick, you want to do the live stream show yourself with just you and your whiteboard?
I will be in Boone, North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Big wedding weekend. Big wedding weekend. Have you decided about your tie situation?
Yeah, I'm bringing 2, and I'll just play it by ear. I'm not planning on wearing them because they don't fit. They don't necessarily match perfectly, but I'll just have her put them in their purse.
No, you're going to let peer pressure determine what you do?
What else is she carrying in your purse?
Some things are like required. Sometimes they say tie required.
Wait, who's that? Who's the they? It's an outdoor wedding. What, are they going to not let you in?
No, the outdoor wedding, I think I'm good, but there's a rehearsal dinner on Friday, and it might be at like a fancy restaurant that requires a tie. I know very little about anything that's happening this weekend.
If that's required, it should have been stated.
It might have been stated. She doesn't know. She said the groom said tie on Friday. So I don't know.
Sounds like hype to me.
I'm bringing 3 shirts for 2 days. One of them is in case I have to wear a tie because I have a tie that would match the shirt. But otherwise, not wearing it.
High maintenance, man.
At 10, stand by.
Good call, Travis. Good visual.
Need to talk a little bit about summer vacations. That's right. There can be a lot of fun. Travel all around, go to the beach, maybe go to Disney World, maybe go to another beach, maybe go to the mountains. I don't know. What you do need to take those summer vacations is a reliable vehicle. And you might be in the market for one of those right now. You need to go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. If you're looking for a brand new vehicle, 14 acres of brand new Chevys to choose from. You won't find a larger selection anywhere in the Midlands. You're guaranteed to find the car or truck you've been looking for. Maybe you're thinking about a pre-owned certified vehicle from Love Chevrolet. So many great options out there. They got a great pre-owned lot, and that sales staff, so knowledgeable, will help make sure you feel comfortable with the big purchase you are about to make. Go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. The $1,000 low price guarantee means you're going to get the best deal possible. 14 acres of brand new Chevys means you're choosing from the largest selection. And again, that sales staff, fantastic. They're going to make sure you feel comfortable with your purchase. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads.
Our first price is always our best price. So come visit our showroom and see.
Chris, I've been off this whole week, guys. LOL. In Augustine, Florida. Still wake up and listen to y'all. Got to know what's going on. Well done. Much appreciated, sir. This morning, what's going on? Well, we did talk a lot about the U.S. Open earlier. The NBA playoff collapse by the Sixers against the Hawks last night. That's all kind of national stuff, though. And somehow one question from the interstate has gotten us into a full-blown conversation about Gamecock football at this point. It's how difficult is the job?
Make sure you get that.
Is the job now more difficult? Jay was just asking for Bill to kind of evaluate Shane Beamer at this point, and it has transferred or kind of evolved into where is the difficulty of this job right now? Jacob hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line with a lengthy text about he thinks it's his opinion that Kentucky is an easier football job in South Carolina. Bill, I point to that overall record for Mark Stoops right now. What did you say it was? Is it 50-49? He's one game above 500 in his 8 years?
49-50. 8 years. 8 years.
So
there.
one
And he's
game
20,
below,
real quick, he's
below
20,
500.
24-42 in conference play. Has
And-
had one above 500 season. He's had 2 4-4s and a
In conference
5-3. So 3 seasons above 500 in conference play, or 500 or better in conference play.
So Jacob does make his point and says he's a Carolina fan, but Kentucky and Vandy are not more difficult than South Carolina because they both have lower football expectations, and Kentucky has basketball to fall back on. Well, if that's your opinion. I understand it, and you're certainly welcome to it. Sounds like I'm not going to change your opinion with mine, but let's get back to more of the point. The difficulty of this job for Shane Beamer right now, and then the expectation. Because the national expectation is that South Carolina is not going to be a very good football team this year. At 3.5 or 4.5 wins overall, the over-under. The local expectation, as always, is that South Carolina better be better than that. Otherwise, why'd you make a head coaching switch, I think? With this year's schedule having kind of a rare Gamecock schedule where you have 3 wins penciled in your out of your 4 non-conference games. If you can't beat Eastern Illinois, East Carolina, and Troy this year, there are massive problems. And then you got a Vanderbilt program that is reeling and has a new head coach. Then that's when you get into, I think, more the direct comparisons for Shane Beamer, right? Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Missouri, what are they going to be doing with the second year of their head coach, a guy that came down in Appalachian State and beat you the year before he headed over there? What about that Kentucky program? Bill, I don't know if we still evolved in that, 5-game win streak for Kentucky over Carolina that has been ended. I don't know if Gamecock fans, if that has evolved the way they think about the Kentucky program. I don't think it has very much. I think Gamecock fans still expect to be better than Kentucky. They expect Shane Beamer to be better than Kentucky, and they're expecting it this year. Maybe expecting is too strong, but they're certainly hoping that the Gamecocks can be better than Kentucky, because I think that's a big sign. That and Tennessee this year. You can throw in Missouri. I think Vanderbilt is supposed to be a win for sure. That's how, to me, I'm going to be evaluating mostly year number 1 for Shane Beamer and the trajectory of the Carolina program and just how difficult a situation it is for Beamer coming in after Will Muschamp and company. What about you?
Well, the Kentucky thing is because South Carolina won, I think, 13 out of 14 from 2000 to 2013. Like, it kind of didn't matter what South Carolina was. They still managed to beat Kentucky. And it's kind of the same thing with Vanderbilt, right? There's the weird thing that Vanderbilt's beaten like every SEC Eastern team in the last 10 years or something, except South Carolina. Like, South Carolina just finds a way. Sean Elliott's the interim head coach. South Carolina just finds a way to beat Vanderbilt. South Carolina's awful. They're 4-8. That's all right. They beat Vanderbilt. They're really bad. They're 2-8. Somehow still finds a way to beat Vanderbilt. So I don't think that the 5-game losing streak that occurred 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 changed that mindset of, well, we beat Kentucky on a regular basis. Their program's better than ours. As far as this year and expectations, it is interesting. I think locally, not a lot of people are expecting a lot. I think a lot of people think if Shane can find a way to grind out 6 wins somehow, some way, that's a massive accomplishment. That would be winning your 3 non-conference games, winning Vanderbilt. And then, I don't know what they'll be against Missouri. Obviously, this team was depleted at the end of last year. They were owned to an interim head coach and still had the ball with a chance to go down and tie the game against Missouri. And Luke Doty throws an interception. So, maybe you let that play in a little bit into the mindset, and you think, okay, South Carolina's not that far away from Missouri. Kentucky throttled them, and then we'll see what happens with Tennessee and Josh Heupel, new head coach there. So I think those 3 games, those are the ones you're looking to try and get a barometer of where exactly South Carolina is in year 1 under Shane Beamer.
Rooster P, driving his 18-wheeler this morning over in Mississippi, says, based on recent history, I don't think we should just pencil in any automatic win. You're understand that mindset for sure. Tennessee Dave says, hey, could be a lifelong Tennessee fan like me. Think about those expectations that haven't been met in years. And those expectations are way more than South Carolina by far. Completely agree. Get it. Another text in. This one's off of the take by Thomas calling the Kentucky job easier because of the lower expectations. Wait a second. Thomas says, just tuned in. Are you guys saying Kentucky's an easier job because expectations are lower? Our men's basketball expectations are pretty low from the Gamecock perspective. Would you say that makes our job easier than numerous other SEC and ACC jobs? No, I think that's a good point. I think that's the comparison for Kentucky football, isn't it? Isn't that Gamecock men's basketball? I think they're very similar. You go that one game under 500 in 8 years. I mean, that doesn't even keep your job from a basketball perspective. It's a little different. But I think they're very similar type environments or programs in a lot of ways. 803-404-6100, the number in the program. Patrick, I feel like I've gotten the specifics from Bill's take on this. I want your specifics on this because you don't have the historical perspective of Lou Holtz. You know South Carolina football, Steve Spurrier on. How do you evaluate Shane Beamer from what you've seen so far and then your expectations going into this year?
I don't know what more he could have done so far. I mean, maybe getting some of the kids outside of getting these kids to commit on the spot when they were visiting last week. Like, I think he's done a fine job. My expectations for this season are not high, though. Like, I just see a lot of flaws in this South Carolina team compared to maybe the rest of the SEC. Like, I don't know. Like, the schedule is always going to be brutal. Like, I think I might pick Georgia to win the national championship this year. I think they're going to be loaded, and that could be very ugly. And how they rebound from that game, like, can tell a lot of this, will dictate a lot of what's going to happen this season. Their secondary is going to be pretty weak. You're going to have kind of a new quarterback, at least to start the season. He got 3 games last year. So we have not seen enough from the quarterback position. We name all the names at wide receiver, but no one stands out. Like, I don't see this being more than a 5-win season. So how they can build off of that, I don't know. But the good part is that, like, you look at the schedule, there's no quarterback at least that you're playing that you say, okay, well, this offense is going to be a machine, other than I think Georgia and Clemson, because there's been a lot of change. Tennessee will have a new quarterback. Florida will have a new quarterback. A&M will have a new quarterback. Like, they've all lost a lot. So if you can keep those games close, like we said, a 5-7 with some close games and not get throttled by A&M, not get crushed by Florida, like, keep them close, then we can build something. But from a win-loss perspective, like, I would be surprised if they're a bowl eligible team this year.
Well, again, if you look at the schedule, you've got 4 that as Tim just said, I mean, Vanderbilt's at home. Factor that in. You've got 4.
If you want to be anything, you have to pencil them in as wins.
Right. I mean, look, and I agree with Tim. To me, if you don't win all 4 of those, that's more of a concern on the coaching staff than it is, hey, this is a really bad football team. Then you become concerned about the ability to – because South Carolina in those 4 games, Troy, East Carolina, and Eastern Illinois, and Vanderbilt, say what you want about the talent. South Carolina will have the talent advantage in those games, and they're all at home. All right, East Carolina's on the road, but 3 of them are at home. So that's 4. The question to me becomes, and this is maybe where you define it being a successful season or not, the 3 teams that you feel like you've got to compete with to climb over. At this moment, 2 of those games are on the road. Kentucky is here. Kentucky's here. Tennessee and Missouri are on the road. Can you go 2-1 in those games? Can you go 2-1 in those games? Kentucky's at home. Tennessee feels like the more winnable, in my opinion, the more winnable game out of Tennessee and Missouri. Can you go 2-1? There's your path to 6. And then after that, if you pull an upset, if you know Mike Bobo's offense and you're able to stop that in November, you know, who knows if what Emory Jones is going to be at Florida and what that team's going to be with all the losses that they've had and wherever that program's heading. Can you pull one upset somewhere along the way? There's your path to 6. You should have
that Kentucky game, though, is going to indicate a lot about this team, though, because I assume you'll be 2-1. I think the Georgia game will probably be ugly when you go play a night game in Athens, and Georgia is loaded as always this year. They've got a returning quarterback. They've got weapons all over the place. Like, Georgia is going to be very good, and then you got a home game against Kentucky. Like, you have to win that game.
That's the Kentucky game is where I think you will see. Well, we will. I'm with you. I've said that multiple times, and I also think Georgia, given Kirby Smart, I don't think Kirby Smart has a very good relationship with Shane Beamer. There's that dude over there who's now an interim assistant or whatever Will Muschamp is on the label. Like, you feel like Georgia is. That's not going to be a game where they're gonna try and smoke you. They're going to try and light South Carolina up for 50 or 60 points or do whatever they can to embarrass Beamer and South Carolina. So I'm with you. That's how you handle the week after that game if things do get ugly, and how you have your team prepared for Kentucky, which Kentucky, just for whatever reason, seems like the SEC network loves putting that at the 7 o'clock game. I can't remember the last time South Carolina played Kentucky in a nooner. I think it was Steven Garcia coming in for Chris Smelly in the fourth quarter, like a noon game up there in Lexington back in like 2008 or 9. It feels like this game is always played at 7 p.m. on the SEC network. That's probably what it's going to be again, and it'll be really interesting to see how this team comes back from playing a top 4, top 5 team in Georgia. By the way, you said you might pick Georgia to win the national championship. Did you see the SEC short video on Georgia and Hope?
No, recent or just?
Yeah, it came out this week.
Oh no, I did not.
They also managed to take a shot at South Carolina at the very end of it, which is
great.
Which actually was pretty funny. But it's you need to watch it if you haven't seen it. It's that they do.
I see it now. How Georgia fans deal with Hope. I'm gonna watch that as soon as we get done here.
We'll get Patrick's review on the SEC short video when we come back. Alan wanted to hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. My opinion, and a lot of Gamecock friends think this, gives Shane Beamer time. No big expectations from everyone I talk to. I think it's easy to say that in these months. And then I feel like every football season, it always changes real quick, especially if a few wins mount up early, like this season kind of sets up on paper, like you guys are talking about. Then I think that the opinions change real quick, and you can throw that relatively realistic and logical view out the window, and you get the emotions involved. But we'll see. 803-404-6100. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Crowder, right? Crowder. Oh, yeah. Now's the time of the year to think about refinancing or maybe even buying a new home. And if you're going to do that, it's time to get in touch with a mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. He also has been telling people to check their mortgage statements lately. With the interest rates still being low, now's the time where you could refinance, maybe get a little bit of money back depending on the equity that you have in your current house. Maybe be able to pay off a credit card, put yourself in a better financial situation. Find out today. Give a mortgage guru a call. That's Jacob Crowder or Brian Kovar with First Palmetto Bank, 803-719-1005. You can email them, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com is the way to do that. Again, check that mortgage statement. I was talking to Jacob and Brian just the other day. They were talking about how they helped one of their really good friends be able to refinance, get some money back, pay off a credit card that he owed, and put himself in a better financial situation. Jacob and Brian can do that for you today. You just need to start the process. Give them a phone call. See what they can do. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank.
Watch that video now. It's a great start. I'm going to keep watching it with the sound up, if that's all right with you guys.
Go ahead.
Okay. That was for 2017. I get it. But now that we've gotten that out of our system, we can on and on. You see,
As a Georgia fan, she's burned me before. She mentioned 2017. What she didn't mention was 2018. Jalen Hurts comes off the bench. 2007, we waste Knowshon Moreno's breakout season by losing to two unranked teams. 2004, preseason ranked number 1. That didn't work out. 2008, Lord Saban has arrived. 2012, we're 5 yards short of getting the honor of crushing a terrible Notre Dame team in the national championship. Yep, and I could go on. But this
Okay, I just finished it.
this year.
What an unnecessary strategy.
Let me get there. I got about 45 more seconds.
Daniels, you pull Rick Gilbert and Darion Kendrick out of the transfer portal, and you don't draw Alabama unless you are Texas A&M out of the West.
I'm really excited. I'll probably watch every game. That doesn't change the fact, as a Georgia fan, I'm constantly physically and emotionally prepared to lose to some random non-bowl eligible South Carolina team. Again. This episode of SEC Short.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah.
I'll do the hoping for them, I guess.
What's that?
I'll do the hoping for them, I guess. They are quite loaded.
Well, it's like they had somebody sent us a link from UGAwire.com that had Williams-Brice as the second best stadium environment in the SEC.
Behind
Interesting.
LSU.
Fan bases perceive each other. Whoa, nice, Kovar.
Putting a
Got
basketball
the
court in the
basketball
backyard.
court in the backyard, pool, building a deck. I made up the pool part.
Nine text messages from our guy this morning. 9.
One and a half of them were agreeing with me.
He does like you. He's a fan. He's a passionate fan.
Sometimes.
You literally said, 5 wins. I just bumped it up to 6.
Yeah.
You're in the ring.
I'm rational and you're wearing garnet colored glasses.
One game off. Ooh, fog is out this morning there at the Torrey Pines.
You see what Matt sent us? This projected top 25 for the upcoming college football season?
Don't think that looks like a legit graphic at all.
And I would think, even if it was, then they switched up the USC logo. Wouldn't that be the easy answer to that?
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would that? Look at the other teams.
Oh, right. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Ohio State is number 11.
Why does Washington have a 13-0 record beside it?
Oh yeah, that was the 2 teams. I guess they were projecting to go.
Oh.
Yeah, that's CBS thing. There was so many things.
NBC.
That was NBC. There was so many things about that without even getting to South Carolina being projected at 20. That I was like, what in the world?
Utah State number 15 in the nation.
And Utah's number 6? Apparently, this was done by someone in Utah.
Well,
UVA number 18.
someone in the Pac-12.
I mean, yeah,
I don't even know what Washington's got coming back, but I guess I need to go read on it.
How about
that's the fakest graphic of all time.
Tennessee at number 24?
I wondered about that, because I started searching NBC Sports to see if there was an actual link or article or explanation.
Well, the only thing that's linked is an Instagram page.
Right.
I'll type that in and see what it is.
Sucker that achieved what it wanted to achieve.
Oh, are we not doing Kerry? Did we just decide not to do Kerry Tharp this morning, or?
Maybe Jen's on the phone with him right now.
Eating it now. I think Jen might be on with him right now.
And we didn't give, we flubbed that. We didn't give, I guess off air we've got to give, or on the live stream we've got to give our U.S. Open picks.
This Instagram page that's linked on that picture doesn't even have that graphic on it. So what was the
Yeah, so-
tattoo?
Right now.
Carrie's ready.
All right.
I have him primed. Where are we racing this week, Bill?
Nashville.
Have you taken a look at last year's results yet?
Yep. I won last year's race in Nashville.
We'll mention that on the air.
I was the fastest driver. Do you know what track they raced at in Nashville last year?
We'll go on and find out. You guys are up.
Dramatic conclusion of today's show. Who better to join us on the Love Chevy phone lines than our buddy, Darlington Raceway President, longtime USC Sports Information Director, Kerry.
Coming off an all-star race from NASCAR where, unfortunately, Bill Gunter picked correctly again. Kerry, your thoughts, sir?
Well, I tell you, it was an interesting race. First time it'd been at Texas Motor Speedway, and I really didn't try to figure out what the format was because it was almost like a format that Bill would have devised. So you invert the field here and you shake them up and throw them around, see who's going to land where to start the next segment. But be that as it may, it had familiar results there at the end when Kyle Larson went to victory lane. So Bill is right now pretty much whipping butt and taking names in our contest. So
It's called dumb luck, Kerry. Dumb luck.
Dumb luck. I hope that's what it is. Buzzard's luck, something like that. But there's got to be an end to this, and hopefully there's an end in sight. And I think it's going to start this weekend in Nashville. I think we got him covered up this weekend.
I think so.
Yeah, of course. Well, you can always have dreams, right? Father's Day. I respect you. I could give you a good Father's Day present. Maybe I'll pick the third place driver this time, so you guys can get a little bit closer.
Oh, geez.
So, do you guys want to? Should we turn the tables on Bill and let him go first this week so he doesn't have any excuses?
Yeah, I'm totally
fine
fine
with
with that.
Yeah,
when you're in a
we'll
slump,
invert it like the All-Star race.
Hey, when you're in a slump, you shake things up, right, Jen? I mean,
absolutely.
You change the batting order up. So let's do that. Go ahead. Go ahead there, know-it-all. Who you got?
Love that.
You know what? I'm torn. Two drivers real quick this week. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. I always go with Hamlin, but I really like Truex Jr. But my gut says go with my guy. Denny Hamlin gets the job done. I like Kyle Larson. I think he's got a great chance. I'm gonna go with my guy, Denny Hamlin. They have never raced in Nashville before. Hamlin seemed to struggle a little bit. I'm already questioning my pick, but I'll stick with my guy Hamlin.
All right. At least we're in his head, Kerry. Where are you going?
That's right.
You are in my head, yeah.
Well, he mentioned one of the guys that I like, and that's Martin Truex Jr. So I'm going to go with the guy that Bill probably should have taken, but I'll take Martin Truex Jr.
Oh, that would be nice. That would be nice. I hope we're talking about that, how it didn't work out for Bill next week. Jen, I know you are as well. Where are you going?
I'm with the Hendrick cars are still pretty strong. The new package that they're running this weekend. I'm gonna go William Byron.
Okay, those are the selections. Kerry, I hope that we have now changed things up. You're now 19 points behind Bill in our NASCAR pick segment.
Embarrassing.
A solid second place, much better than Jen and then Reggie
25.
Anderson from WLTX News 19.
I'm 3 touchdowns behind. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, we hope your
you
luck
are.
changes. Maybe the Nashville will do it for you. Appreciate your time as always. DarlingtonRaceway.com for all the Darlington info out there. At Kerry_Tharp on Twitter, where you can follow Kerry. Have a good weekend, sir.
You too. Thank you, guys.
This has been a heck of a show, huh, Bill? I know. With your NASCAR expertise, you're thrown off now getting that first pick. A lot of Gamecock football talk going in the U.S. Open.
That's a lot of pressure right there.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, you might as well, since we have about 10 seconds left, give us one name for the U.S. Open. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the favorite, John Rahm. I think he's ready to claim a major.
Excellent. Write it down, folks. Anti-John Rahm for the U.S. Open. Thanks for listening to the early game.
This is one of
Clear.
the game. WNKTN.
All right, guys. Thanks, DC. Enjoy your week off. We'll see you in a couple weeks then.
Yeah.
Greg, thanks for tuning in, helping out. So, Patrick, who are you going to win? You're going Koepka?
Koepka and Leishman as my sleeper.
Okay. Bill, you got a sleeper?
Yeah, let's see here real quick. Sleepers, something further down. You know what? I like Patrick's pick, and he's the same odds. I'll go Kokrak as the sleeper.
You okay with that, Patrick? You gonna allow it?
Yeah, it's okay. If he wins, I'll win money.
Yeah.
All right, Jen. What about you? Got it. One favorite and one sleeper.
Schauffele and Finau.
Ooh, good ones. All right, so I'm left with Thomas or Spieth. I feel like I could even go Rory, but I'm not.
Good DJ.
You got DeChambeau, the defending champion.
Yeah, I got a lot of options there for the favorites that you guys didn't go with, but I'm gonna go with. I'll go with Spieth, just for the heck of it.
Okay.
I'm thinking Koepka because I like him.
Gotcha. And then for the sleeper, I'll go with a guy who won the U.S. Open not too long ago, Gary Woodland, just for the heck of it.
All right.
I have a hunch Morikawa's going to win.
Yeah, you can't do that. Then you should have picked him. Don't give me your.
I think I'm just going to put money on him.
Oh, okay. As long as you put money on it, then I can go with that. Thank you guys for checking out the live stream. Again, we're all tomorrow. Be back on Monday. See you then.